Okie dokie, here we are on a brand new hunter. Now, this little guy is we're gonna play through Valley of Trials, and we've got some nightly news for you tonight. And what we're gonna do is just take a quick moment with him dancing here to double check some of our stream information. So stream is starting soon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for checking me out. I'm a brand new streamer, and it is quite a blessing every time somebody is here and they give like a little like or a follow or something like that, or a subscribe if you're in YouTube. It really makes a huge difference, especially for newer streamers, I've come to find. So I want to make sure that the bit rates look good everywhere, and all of the live components are not hot miking. Okay. Finally, I need to do a quick edit in YouTube to make sure that they don't think that this video is for kids, and we should be good to go. Well, if you were not here on the last stream, my zero talent shaman dings level 25, and as promised, we threw a whole bunch of what do you call it? We threw a whole bunch of talent points his way, and about 15 minutes after we spent those talent points, he dies. So maybe it was that I felt like I was so strong that I wasn't taking it as seriously as I maybe should have. Um, or maybe I really should have gone a little more conservative with the talent points for survival on that shaman instead of just like elemental damage. Or maybe we really just did get in a very sticky situation. I can't wait to clip that video and post it actually, because it's pretty hilarious. It was just 1 HP at one point, it seemed, and back to full health, and then another super close call, and picked up about 8 mobs plus, maybe. So it was quite the experience. Our first hunter died. It was a murder, actually, by some rogue that, vanished on us, and I was kind of under the weather and not really feeling up to playing that day, so maybe I should have been a little smarter. I did not feign death, but he had so many mobs on me, it probably would have killed me anyway. So that hunter's dead, the shaman's dead, my priest is dead, but he was a pretty low level. And today we've got the nightly news. I've got the breaking news from the White House briefings, which I always think are very interesting because it's going to be providing us the unique perspective of the critical news sources. And then it's also going to provide us with, the White House's actual response. And we can kind of see both sides of the fence here. And my hope is that throughout all of this and through these nightly news streams, we will be able to eventually make sense of all of the chaos that is happening in the world as we take an actual, not a clickbait common sense, but like an actual common sense uh, like approach to the information that we are gathering, and that together we can find out what's really going on in the world. And if you think about it, and if you look closely enough and you pay attention, it's that's the world around you. The writing is really on the wall sometimes, where you almost, if you listen close enough, you almost become able to predict kind of what is going to be happening next in the world. So I'm wondering if some of our predictions together will actually end up coming true throughout this experience. Um, but yeah, we've had some fun recently with discussing dark matter and faith as well, and a lot of little debates and things like that a couple nights ago. And we also do Bible studies on this stream. If you're interested in that, just tune into those little postings. And I want to be able to offer free tutoring because I'm also an English teacher, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we have in store for you guys. Even like little casual gaming sessions and stuff like that. So that's the stream, and thank you for being here. And without further ado, we will get started. I just want to do one final check to make sure that the audio levels are looking good, and we will do a quick little check on the audio here.
This, if we didn't believe the president, this was within the president's
Seems a little quiet. Maybe I'll turn it up.
executive authority to continue with this mass deportation effort under the authority provided to him under the Alien Enemies Act. And when you read the act,
And now that looks a little too loud.
as I did last time at the podium, a predatory incursion is absolutely what has happened with
There we
Tren de
go.
Aragua. They have been sent here by the hostile
So let's start the video at the very beginning. I just was moving it to here for a thumbnail. I don't necessarily pre-watch these videos or anything like that. And I'm going to mess with a few settings here as the video gets going, like within my own channel. And then we'll get to playing, and I'll minimize the video back to where it is.
Maduro regime in Venezuela, and the president, immediately upon taking office, designated TDA as a foreign terrorist organization. And under this act, it is within the. Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? It's a newsy day indeed. And last night we saw the very best of America. After spending nearly 300 days aboard the International Space Station, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are back on Earth. These two incredible astronauts were only supposed to be up there for 8 days, but because of the Biden administration's lack of urgency, they ended up spending 9 months in space. Joe Biden's lack of courage to act boldly and decisively was a big reason why Butch and Sonny did not make it back until yesterday. But President Trump doesn't waste time. Immediately after taking office, President Trump directed Elon Musk and SpaceX to rescue these brave astronauts alongside NASA. The president also called the acting administrator of NASA and told her to bring the astronauts home as soon as possible. As acting administrator Janet Petro said herself yesterday, per President Trump's direction, NASA and SpaceX worked diligently to pull the schedule a month earlier. The president looks forward to welcoming Butch and Sonny to the Oval Office when they are recovered. This historic mission brings new meaning to President Trump's promise to always look out for the forgotten man and woman. On another important matter, yesterday, President Trump and President Putin spoke about the need for peace and a ceasefire in the Ukraine war. Both leaders.
What? Okay, this is really interesting. I mean, going from like this perspective, because the big perspective was that um, Putin was just like hiding underground and refused to speak to people, and like you could not possibly get anything done with negotiations because the guy was afraid and a psycho and stuff like that. Which he's pretty crazy. Um, but that was a huge excuse that I heard for a long time. Like, oh, we can't negotiate with Putin. He won't speak to anyone. And then, like, sure enough, the first attempt, this seems like it's going down, right? Um, that's crazy. And it's also crazy that like they're stuck in space for like 9 days or like all these days, but they were only supposed to be up there for 9 days. And it's insane that Elon Musk even offered to get them back sooner. I understand some criticisms as to why maybe Biden said no, and some of them seem pretty sketchy. But I do have one in my back pocket that kind of like gives Biden an excuse for saying no, if this is true. But with my settings all good to go, we're gonna minimize this video and we'll get to playing. Unlock, and let's bring it back down.
Agreed this conflict needs to end with a lasting peace and also stressed the need for improved bilateral relations between the United States and Russia. President Trump also spoke with President Zelensky this morning to align both Russia and Ukraine in terms of their needs and requests. As President Trump has said repeatedly, the precious lives and money that both Ukraine and Russia have been spending in this war would be better spent on the needs of their people. This terrible conflict would have never started with President Trump in charge, but he's determined to end it once and for all. President Trump also promised maximum transparency and a commitment to rebuild the trust of the American people in our intelligence community. Part of that promise was to fully release previously classified records related to the assassination of former President John F. Kennedy, and he made that happen yesterday. This historic
I didn't see that. Okay, that's crazy. That's good. I mean, it's, we gotta know the truth, right? I don't know why they ever covered this up to begin with, unless it's like a really bad thing. Wow.
historic release consisted of approximately 80,000 pages of previously classified records that are now published. The records are available to access either online at archives.gov/JFK or in person, accessible to the American people at the National Archives in College Park, Maryland. Records that are currently only available for in-person viewing are being digitized and will be uploaded in the coming days. On another note, positive economic data continues to pour in, showing the immediate impact of President Trump's pro-growth agenda. After suffering a steep decline in the final year of the Biden administration, the manufacturing sector came roaring back in February. Industrial production surged in February, these are new numbers, at a greater 3 times rate than the expectations to its highest ever recorded level. And President Trump's laser focus on massive deregulation and unleashing our domestic energy industry is leading to stabilities for Americans' bottom lines. As Newsweek summed it up today, gas prices are plummeting under President Trump. And the Trump administration continues to make American communities safer through our ongoing mass deportation campaign of illegal alien criminals. Yesterday, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the agency captured another fugitive from its 10 most wanted list, securing the extradition of Francisco Javier Roman Bardeles, a key senior leader of the brutal MS-13 gang. And the brave men and women of ICE also arrested a number of dangerous aliens across the country in recent days. You will see them on this screen. ICE San Francisco just arrested a citizen of Guatemala convicted of sexual battery. ICE New Orleans arrested a citizen of Ecuador convicted of rape in Suffolk County, New York. ICE Atlanta arrested a citizen of Mexico convicted of assault by strangulation. ICE Dallas arrested a citizen of Mexico convicted of assault with a firearm and rape with a foreign
Jeepers. My gosh.
object. And ICE Houston arrested a citizen of Guatemala convicted of indecent sexual contact with a child in Texas.
Get him. Good, get him. Why are people arguing against this? Get him. These poor children.
These are heinous criminal alien monsters who the previous administration allowed to flood into our country. And every time President Trump and this team deport one of them, our country becomes safer. Finally, before I open it up to questions, I want to tout how successful our efforts have been in filling out President Trump's administration. There have been a record number of 281 Senate confirmed nominations already, with another 280 in process. Here at the White House, OPM and GSA, we have filled 100% of the total number of slots. And this is a record number of placements in the first 58 days of any administration, and a testament to the caliber and the sheer quantity of talented people who want to work for President Trump to make America great again. Here in our new media seat today, we have Katie Pavlich. Katie is the editor of townhall.com, which is a subsidiary of Town Hall Media. It's a leading conservative news and opinion outlet based right here in Washington, D.C., with writers and journalists reporting around the country. Last year, Town Hall Media had 60 million unique users and 1.4 billion page views, with a broad reach on a number of social media platforms. With that, Katie, please kick us off.
Thank you, Caroline. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. So given the back and forth with this U.S. District Judge and the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act, does the President plan to send new and additional flights of Venezuelan gang members, now designated as foreign terrorists, from the U.S. to El Salvador or elsewhere? Can Americans expect to see those flights sometime soon?
Americans can absolutely expect to see the continuation of the mass deportation campaign that has been successfully led by this president, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and also our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Since you brought up the judges, I would like to point out that the judges in this country are acting erroneously. We have judges who are acting as partisan activists from the bench. They are trying to dictate policy from the President of the United States. They are trying to clearly slow walk this administration's agenda, and it's unacceptable. As the President said last night, we will continue to comply with these court orders. We will continue to fight these battles in courts, but it's incredibly apparent that there is a concerted effort by the far left to judge shop, to pick judges who are clearly acting as partisan activists from the bench in an attempt to derail this president's agenda. We will not allow that to happen. And not only are they usurping the will of the president and the chief executive of
I mean, is this like a new thing? Like I mean, there's government corruption all over the place, right? There always has been. Um, but I hear something like this, and I'm like, dude, they're clearly being stopped, so it's not like it's a lie. So this is kind of true, right? But is this like a new issue? Because I'm pretty sure I've never heard of the left doing something like this before, and also the right has not really done anything like this before. The fact that judges are being not necessarily just in their like accusations or whatever it is that they're doing to then, I guess, as she put it, slow walk the administration. It's like a weird ability that they are, imposing, I guess you could say. But it's just it doesn't seem. I don't know enough about politics or judges or anything like that. I'm just your average everyday Walmart American, right? Um, but I don't think that judges have normally done this kind of thing. And do they normally have this like level of power? And if there seems to be an obvious bias here, where they're just trying to slow something down, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the true role of a judge. So it's strange, which is why I think it's never happened before on the left or the right. At least not to this like rampant level, right? Because it's happening like constantly. It's odd. It's odd.
our country, but they are undermining the will of the American public, tens of millions of Americans who duly elected this president to implement the policies that are coming out of this White House.
And then one more question. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said yesterday that he was united with Democrats in working against Americans who, quote, their attitude is, I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? Or, I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how to treat my customers? What is the president's response to this, given his upcoming tax agenda and need to work on Capitol Hill?
Well, we certainly hope that Democrats all of a sudden are for more money in the pockets of the American public. The president has made it incredibly clear that he is committed to tax cuts.
I mean, she is right. The Democrats, for a while, have been claiming things like, "Oh yes, less taxes is good," but then like every policy actually imposes like more taxes. Like just at its core, like socialized medicine, for example, which is something that the far left, they want, right? Even like people like Bernie and stuff like that. But that comes with a cost, and the cost is going to be in taxes. Now, the problem is all the tax cuts that the rich have and stuff like that. And the interesting thing is before like Musk was even like a Doge dude, he was, I saw, talking about how the tax code is way too complicated and we need to simplify it. And it's like more complicated than even rocket science. He was like joking, but he's actually kind of right. If the tax code, like literally the papers of the tax code, would fill up a lecture hall, which is kind of the image he gave, and if rocket science is nowhere near that complicated, like there's a reason for that. It's so people can manipulate the code and find loopholes and so on and so forth. And if people, like as he wanted, just paid exactly what they were supposed to pay, then then that would be better for, I mean, the government, right? Like every Tom, Dick, and Harry pays what they got to pay, and every major billionaire corporation pays what they got to pay without tax cuts across the board. And in that way, we might actually be able to even cut taxes because we end up collecting what we're supposed to collect. So it's, I mean, because before this was even on Musk's radar, being this Doge guy, um, he was talking about this. It does make me a bit hopeful, right? And if there are enough cuts to taxes and stuff like that, it's interesting too because will the Democrats say no to that bill or whatever as well? Because they're saying no to everything. Like they won't even stand for that kid that had brain cancer, right? Because the optics are you have to say Trump is bad, and if you don't, if you ever say that he did something good, it just is more it's more painful for them maybe because it just further emphasizes that maybe something good came from their loss and they don't want to admit to that at all because I mean Trump has done some things that are kind of okay and good, right? um, it's just obvious, like getting rid of actual criminals, right? And it's been very well documented, even through the liberal media who are like are challenging it and stuff like that. Then they find, okay, yeah, these guys were actually indeed very violent, gang members and stuff like that. The El Salvadorian president is not going to take on this odd risk for no reason, right? He's going to make sure that the people he's accepting into his prisons are indeed these violent gang members and stuff like that. But yeah, at least that's the way I see it. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, this is the way I see it. Please let me know if I'm wrong. If I don't have all the info, don't crucify me. This is just the perspective that I have as your average American based on like everything that I'm seeing. And I don't mean to be like far onto one side for today. I really try to stay in the middle as much as I can, but nothing they're saying is actually inherently bad or really even should be something that the right supports. It should be these things sound like things that like everyone should support, like fair taxes, less taxes, getting rid of bad people that are doing actually terrible things to children, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Public right now, their approvals are at an all-time record low. Thanks for being with us, Katie. Garrett.
I have one other question, but I want to follow up on Katie's question. Actually, you said the mass deportation campaign would continue, but she asked about the flights specifically. Will those flights to El Salvador continue while this case is being appealed?
We don't have any flights planned specifically, but we will continue with the mass deportations. And I would just like to point out that the judge in this case is essentially trying to say that the president doesn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our American soil. That is an egregious abuse of the bench. This judge does not have that authority. It is the opinion of this White House.
Right, that's what I was saying. It really doesn't seem like he would have that authority. It's pretty crazy and new that this kind of thing is happening. It's just strange to me. I've never seen anything like this before. So yeah, that's that.
And of this administration, and that's why we're fighting this in court. And it's very, very clear that this is an activist judge who is trying to usurp the president's authority. Under the Alien Enemies Act, the president has this power, and that's why this deportation campaign has continued. And this judge, Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable.
You took me right where I wanted to go about the idea that these people are all foreign terrorists, but Judge Boasberg was originally appointed by George W. Bush and then elevated by Barack Obama. I just feel like I should clear that up.
Well, let me just say something to that effect, Garrett. 67% of all of the injunctions in this century have come against which president? Donald J. Trump.
And here's a counter. I mean, who cares if Bush put this guy into power, basically? I'll tell you why, who cares. The Bush family hates Trump because Trump insulted Jeb Bush or whatever to his face. I think that's his name, right? During the initial debates. And he even wasn't that the guy who was screaming his wife is ugly as a dog and stuff like that? like Trump dismantled the entire career politician Bush family from political power because he usurped that position by simply running against them. So if this judge is, appointed by the Bush family as career politicians and stuff like that, and this family has all this weird political power, wouldn't you think that maybe a family that has this much power and actually absolutely hates Trump because they do, um, regardless of party, they hate Trump just because of what he did to their like family, wouldn't like they have motive to sick a judge after Trump? So when this guy says, "Oh, we just wanted to clear that up," Bush family appointed him, um, and then elevated by like Obama, which is left as well. So it's just weird that he would like think that by saying these things, it clears something up, quote unquote. Because I don't think it does, and I'm trying to be fair about this because like these are the facts as far as I understand it. Unless I'm wrong, please tell me. But like this is the case. I mean, I've lived and I've witnessed these things.
Let me say that again. 60% of the injunctions by partisan activists in the judicial branch have come against President Donald Trump, and 92% of those have been from Democrat appointed judges. This is a clear, concerted effort by leftists who don't like this president and are trying to impose or slow down his agenda.
So, given that, do you think it's a good use of Congress's time and the president's political capital to try to impeach and remove a federal judge, which would take 67 votes you're unlikely to get in the Senate?
Well, look, the president has made it clear that he believes this judge in this case should be impeached, and he has also made it clear that he has great respect for the Chief Justice John Roberts, and it's incumbent upon the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges. These partisan activists are undermining the judicial branch by doing so. We have co-equal branches of government for a reason, and the president feels very strongly about that. Jackie.
Thanks, Caroline. What options does the president have to, he says he's going to follow court orders. He wouldn't defy a court order, but he's raised these concerns about these judges acting in such a partisan way. What option does he have to ensure that his agenda continues to move forward while this is ongoing and the judges appear to be trying to just block and delay and impede?
Well, you're right. They are trying to block, delay, and impede. This is lawfare. The president is.
It's lawfare. Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it. It feels so crooked. Like I don't I'm the kind of person that is like, and maybe I shouldn't be this way, but I believe in our justice system. I do. And it makes me really sad that like justice essentially is being questioned in this way. It's affecting me deeply, to be honest. And to have a judge like actually act in a partisan fashion, it's truly deeply concerning. Now, if anybody wants to rein in on this or comment on it or give their perspective, please do. I'm very curious to see what other people, not the news sources, but what other people have to say. Right? I wanna see all sides. That's the purpose of this stream.
Is no stranger to it. He faced it in his campaign, and this is a continuation of the lawfare that President Trump faced as a candidate, and he's now unfortunately facing as a president. Clearly, these partisan activists in the judicial branch didn't get the memo on November 5th when the American people overwhelmingly reelected this president to continue with mass deportations. So, White House counsel and the Department of Justice are working on this. They're appealing these cases, and we will continue to use the full weight of the White House counsel's office and the president's team of lawyers to fight this in court, because we know we will win, even if we have to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
One more on TDA. Andy McCarthy said in an interview with Hugh Hewitt, he certainly agrees with what the president is trying to do with the Alien Enemies Act, but he's not sure that the law is completely on his side. He cites some previous Supreme Court rulings dealing with enemy combatants in wartime, says that even they have a challenge or a right to challenge their detention in court. He raised concern also that while TDA has been designated as a terrorist organization, these individuals hadn't been prosecuted for terrorism. So my question is, will the president ask Congress potentially to declare war on these cartels for the invasion that he's talked about so that he's on stronger legal footing?
Well, we absolutely disagree with the legal opinion of the individual that you mentioned. We would not have moved forward with this if we didn't believe the president. This was within the president's executive authority to continue with this mass deportation effort under the authority provided to him under the Alien Enemies Act. And when you read the act, as I did last time at the podium, a predatory incursion is absolutely what has happened with Tren de Aragua. They have been sent here by the hostile Maduro regime in Venezuela, and the president, immediately upon taking office, designated TDA as a foreign terrorist organization. And under this act, it is within the president's authority to deport these terrorists. And
Well, that's crazy. I had not heard that there was like a specific group that like actually sent them here, and that we knew about that group sending. Because up until now, I've just heard them saying like, "Oh yeah, they were sent here," or it's an attack upon our nation. And I was even yesterday, I was like, "Is this really? What claims do they have to even make this, even sound like a purposeful attack rather than just like maybe a lot of bad people just came here?" So if that's true, if that's true, that, and which it might be, but from the way she's framing it to literally the news media and the news sources, uh, it sounds like, that they are confident that they've discovered who is sending these people here, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe it's, wow. This is because for me, this is new information. Interesting. So there is something that they're able to cling to show uh, terrorist invasion acts. Interesting. Okay, because up until now, again, we haven't really, at least I haven't really heard anything about that. Here's another thing for the chat and for you guys watching or YouTube or comments or whatever to comment about, because I'd love to know if you have some insight.
anybody trying to defend these terrorists who have now been sent off of American soil should talk to the families of the individuals who these heinous monsters have killed and have raped. If you talk to those families, they are so heartened by the president's decision to take tough action and to use his executive authority, something that no other president has been willing to do, because President Trump does what he says he's going to do, and he is deporting these foreign terrorists from American soil to secure our homeland, and he's within his rights to do that.
Very quickly
Jennifer.
on Tesla. Very quickly on Tesla. There's a website that's trying to dox Tesla owners across the country and saying they're only going to take.
Dude, how is this lady getting so many questions? Is she the new person here? Are they just trying to be nice to her? Interesting. But yeah, she's talking about the Tesla thing. I'm curious about this.
Down personal information when people show that they've sold their cars. What's the administration going to do about that?
I haven't seen that website, but we certainly think it's despicable, the violence that has taken place against Tesla, the company, its employees, and also just Americans who have chosen to drive an electric vehicle. Many of them are Democrats, by the way. Democrats were big supporters of Tesla and of electric vehicles until Elon Musk decided to vote for Donald Trump. So we would like Democrats to also come out and condemn this heinous violence that we have seen, and I believe
I mean, that is the weirdest hypocrisy to me in all of this. Like, just because Elon is like, yeah, okay, I support Trump, and he has his own reasons, and Elon Musk is very progressive, he just is. Trump has even said he's not a Republican. He just voted for us. Um, and I mean, obviously, like, well, going against big oil, right, and going for progressive electrical technology, like that is a very left thing, right? And it's just strange that like we're all. But for me, it's very strange to see like all of this hate just appear, where they're like not just attacking Elon, but they're attacking their fellow like Americans and citizens and stuff like that. It's insane. I just don't understand how people can support this.
the Attorney General has said she's investigating these incidents as acts of domestic terrorism. Jennifer.
On Ukraine, can you say, is the White House going to pause foreign military aid or intelligence sharing with Ukraine as Russia says it's pushing for? And then I have a follow-up on the Federal Trade Commission.
Sure. When it comes to Ukraine, I do have a statement for you from the National Security Advisor and also the Secretary of State. First, I'd like to reiterate what the President said earlier following his call with President Zelensky this morning. He said he just completed a very good telephone call with President Zelensky. It lasted approximately 1 hour. Much of the discussion was based on the call made yesterday with President Putin in order to align both Russia and Ukraine in terms of their requests and needs. We are very much on track, and I will ask Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz to give an accurate description of the points discussed. That statement will be put out shortly. Well, I have that statement for you right here. Bear with me as I read it. Today, President Trump and Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky had a fantastic phone conversation. President Zelensky thanked President Trump for a productive start for the work of the Ukrainian and American teams in Jeddah on March 11th. The meeting of the senior officials from both nations significantly helped in moving toward ending the war. President Zelensky thanked President Trump for the support of the United States, especially the Javelin missiles that President Trump was first to provide in his efforts towards peace. The leaders agreed Ukraine and America will continue working together to bring about a real end to the war, and that lasting peace under President Trump's leadership can be achieved. President Trump fully briefed President Zelensky on his conversation with Putin and the key issues discussed. They reviewed the situation in Kursk and agreed to share information closely between their defense staffs as the battlefield situation evolved. President Zelensky asked for additional air defense systems to protect his civilians, particularly Patriot missile systems, and President Trump agreed to work with him to find what was available, particularly in Europe. The two leaders also agreed on a partial ceasefire against energy. Technical teams will meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to discuss broadening the ceasefire to the Black Sea on the way to a full ceasefire. They agreed this could be the first step toward the full end of the war and ensuring security. President Zelensky was grateful for the president's leadership in this effort and reiterated his willingness to adopt a full ceasefire. President Trump also discussed Ukraine's electrical supply and nuclear power plants. He said that the United States could be very helpful in running those plants with its electricity and utility expertise. American ownership of those plants would be the best protection for that infrastructure and support for Ukrainian energy infrastructure. President Zelensky also thanked President Trump for continuing to push humanitarian concerns, including the exchange of prisoners of war. He noted they had just had a successful exchange and thanked the president for his leadership on that. President Trump also asked President Zelensky about the children who had gone missing from Ukraine during the war, including the ones that had been abducted, and President Trump promised to work closely with both parties to help make sure those children were returned home. They agreed all parties must continue the effort to make a ceasefire work. The presidents noted the positive work of their advisors and representatives, especially Secretary Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Special Envoy Kellogg, and others. The presidents instructed their teams to move ahead with the technical issues related to implementing and broadening the partial ceasefire. The presidents instructed their advisors and representatives to carry out this work as quickly as possible. The presidents emphasized that in further meetings, the teams can agree on all necessary aspects of advancing toward lasting peace and security. That is a lengthy statement that was just given to me, so thanks for bearing with me. Our office will, of course, provide this after. And as you know, as I just pointed out in the statement, the president's team of negotiators and national security experts will be heading to Saudi again later this week to continue working on and ironing out the details. But I would just like to emphasize we have never been this close to peace, and it's only because of President Trump that we are here. I think a couple of years ago, as you all reported on the war, it was incomprehensible to have a partial ceasefire in this conflict. And today, that is true because of the leadership of this president.
So
Mary.
they agreed to closely share information between their defense staffs. Does that mean all intelligence sharing will continue? So the White House is rejecting Russia's request to pause that?
Intelligence sharing in terms of defense for Ukraine will continue to be shared. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions. One on the United States Institute of Peace and then on the Supreme Court, if that's okay.
Sure.
So on the United States Institute of Peace, this is a little bit wild. I understand the old president refused to leave after he was removed from his position. He barricaded himself in his offices, had to be escorted out by police, left the building without Wi-Fi, telephones, elevators, and more, and is now telling media that Doge broke in and illegally removed him. So can you comment on this sequence of events and specify, did Doge illegally enter?
I'm really glad you brought this up, Mary. We were made aware of this story by individuals at Doge, at Elon Musk's team, and also at the State Department who were unable to access this building. And it became very clear that there was a concerted effort amongst the rogue bureaucrats at the United States Institute of Peace to actually physically barricade themselves essentially inside of the building to prevent political appointees of this administration who work at the direction of the President of the United States to get into the building. There was a piece in the Daily Caller, thank you for sharing the truth on this, about what happened. Staff contacted the MPD in an attempt.
Whoa, dude, like, so, oh my gosh, the amount of deception, and then the news is like also repeating. Wow.
To prevent Doge personnel from entering. They barricaded the doors. They also disabled telephone lines, internet connections, and other IT infrastructure within the building. They distributed flyers
What is
internally,
happening?
encouraging each other to basically prevent these individuals from accessing the building. I use this to say this is what Doge and this administration is facing. It's a resistance from bureaucrats who don't want to see change in this city. President Trump was elected on an overwhelming mandate to seek change and implement change, and this is unacceptable behavior.
Thank you. And just really quick on the Supreme Court. I know it's been almost 3 years now since the leak of the draft Dobbs opinion to Politico, actually. A leak which sparked protesting outside the homes of the justices and even brought on one attempted assassination attempt. I know Justice Alito said that it made the justices targets for assassination, but yet the Supreme Court has not tracked down any leaker. Does the White House have interest in finding out who that leaker was, and can you comment on that at all?
I know generally speaking the president has an interest in finding leakers and he believes it's unacceptable, and it's the position of this administration. You've seen the Secretary of Homeland Security has taken tough action at her agency. Leaking is unacceptable to this president and to the leaders across the board in this cabinet, especially when it puts people in harm's way. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. A mom whose daughter was forced to change in a locker room with a biological male at school filed a complaint with the DOJ. How will the Trump DOJ deal with violations of President Trump's orders protecting women and girls like this?
I would
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I remember we watched this. Okay, or I think we watched it together, but we'll see. We'll see what she says.
defer you to the Department of Justice on that specific case, but the president has made it incredibly clear that it is the policy of this administration that there are only two genders, male and female, only two sexes rather, male and female, and that we are not going to tolerate such behavior by men.
Okay, interesting. They've changed. I thought that used to say gender. Now she's saying sexes. I thought they were saying something different before. Interesting.
Pretending to be women. The president will continue to strongly stand for the rights of women and girls, not just in sports and on athletic fields, but also in private spaces like locker rooms and bathrooms. Sure. Go ahead.
questions. Can you explain the president's thinking in his decision to fire the 2 Democratic commissioners, especially given that Mark Meadow is on track to be confirmed next week and there would be a Republican majority? My biggest question is why now?
Sure, because the time was right to let these people go, and the president absolutely has the authority to do it. And they were given ample notice in a letter that I believe your outlet reported on. So it pretty much explains exactly why this administration chose to let those individuals go.
Is the ultimate goal to get this to the Supreme Court to try to overturn the 1935 precedent?
The goal was to let these individuals go. If we have to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court, we certainly will. Rachel.
Back to those deportation flights to El Salvador, can the administration provide any more details on how authorities determined that each of those men were in fact members of a gang? And if the White House can publish images, photos, videos of those men, why can't the administration just release basic information like their identities and names?
We are not going to reveal operational details about a counterterrorism operation, but what I can assure you, as I said on Monday, we have the highest degree of confidence in our ICE agents and our Customs and Border Patrol agents who have committed their lives to targeting illegal criminals in our country, particularly foreign terrorists, and they had great evidence and indication. They have the highest degree of professionalism, and they were 100% confident in the individuals that were sent home on these flights and in the president's executive authority to do that.
To follow up, I know in the last briefing you cited privacy concerns as a reason why the administration may not.
I'm so sick of them asking this question. Because they ask it so much, which is basically like 10 different ways to reword. Are you sure that the people that were sent home were actually supposed to be sent home? Like, what a stupid question. You have nothing else to ask? Like, you've asked it like 4, 5 times already. It's frustrating to watch this as like an American citizen. Accept their answer. You don't have to agree with it, but accept that that's their answer and move on. Ask something different. Don't raise your hand like a little ADD person that didn't listen to the last 3 times they said this. Were you not paying attention? Were you distracted?
Not be able to reveal the identities. What exactly
Oh
are the privacy rights
gosh.
of immigrants who were deported that the administration says were dangerous enough to be sent to El Salvador and sit in a prison?
Again, as I just said, we're not going to reveal the operational details of a counterterrorism operation for quite obvious reasons. We're trying to combat terrorism here in the United States of America. Jeff.
Yeah, she just said that.
Yesterday. There was
Again.
different readouts from the Kremlin and the U.S. on a couple different points. One was energy and infrastructure. The U.S. statement said energy.
Like, are these people even reporters, or are they just baiting for a soundbite, trying to make her say something slightly different? Like, what is... That's not what a reporter should be doing. It seems so strange to me. Like, literally, she just answered that as well. I'm getting frustrated. Is this why approval ratings might be so low? Because Americans are actually intelligent enough to see the disingenuous nature of your actions?
And infrastructure. The Kremlin said energy infrastructure. What is your understanding of what the actual substance of that disagreement was? Then I have one other question on that.
I would defer you to the readout that was provided by the White House. That's our understanding, and that's the truth.
And if I could ask a question about the judge as well. How does a president define a bad judge? Is it just someone who disagrees with him? And is that
No.
a dangerous precedent in this case, because this is a temporary ruling from Judge Boasberg that he...
But can you just listen to the situation? I mean, I'm pretty sure the situation of like getting these evil terrorists, if you're going to use the new definition of what they are, out of here, but even if you don't use that new definition of terrorists, and you call them gang members that rape children and murder people because they are, now I'm sure not every single person is doing these particular crimes, but maybe they are. But they're definitely these violent gang members, and we've seen an interview, at least I've seen an interview, where somebody was talking to the members like a clique leader of this Tren de Aragua gang, and yeah, they have to murder people. Like it's a part of what they do for their initiation or whatever. That's pretty standard for gangs to be honest. Do people not know that?
But he could ultimately rule in your favor. Is he setting up a standard here for calling for the impeachment of a judge who may ultimately rule on your side?
No, it has nothing to do with disagreeing with the president on
What a slimy way to like word everything. Like he might be on your side in the future. Are you sure you? He's being biased. It's so clear. Like just open your eyes. And why would you advocate? Like I don't even understand why the left is advocating to keep these criminals in our country. It's so terrible. It almost makes me think that they're trying to um, drive people away from the party so that they can reform the party into something different. It almost seems like it's on purpose. Because anyone with any common sense is going to say, like, get these freaking criminals out of here, right? So, what is the purpose? Follow the motive, follow the money. We've talked about this before, and it really seems like they're doing it on purpose because they're not stupid. The left is smart, and there's got to be some reason for why they are behaving this way, essentially.
policy. It's with disagreeing with the Constitution and the law. And it's trying to usurp the authority of the executive branch of this country. It's having baseless reasoning for these injunctions. And it's a clear effort by these judges to slow roll this president's agenda. And if you just look at the injunctions that this president has faced, deporting foreign terrorists from our homeland, hiring and firing of executive branch employees which when the president is the executive of the executive branch. You also see an injunction.
So, I mean, I don't understand this. The left, they support, like, throughout history, they've supported the idea of cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. And they've even mocked some of the things through Obama. And I remember this from when I was much younger, claiming, "Oh, like this waste of like the government spending money on a fiddler's class. This is a stupid thing that the conservative party must be into because conservatives like fiddles." Like I literally remember them saying this. Um, so Obama saying we need to cut fraud, but he couldn't. He was blocked somehow. Uh, or he maybe was just running on that and didn't really quite care. I don't really know. But and the whole drain the swamp movement, conservatives definitely have always cared about getting rid of this stuff. At least the conservative people have cared about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, and all this kind of stuff. Um, so why? And the left is also a group of people that probably doesn't want children to be like killed and raped, and same with women to be killed and raped, and all this kind of stuff. So like, why can't they just like support ideas that are good for the American people? It's getting so frustrating, which is makes why it makes me think that they're trying to kill their party. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. It's just I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
By a partisan activist judge when it comes to the Secretary of Defense trying to determine the readiness of our troops and the qualifications of our troops in our armed forces. Does a single district court judge really have more authority over the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Defense to determine who should serve in our United States Armed Forces? Absolutely not. Anyone who has taken a basic civics lesson can understand that, and it's ridiculous lawfare that we are witnessing.
The president said he supports. I'm sorry. The president said he respects the Chief Justice here. Mm-hmm. Does he respect him specifically on this case and this opinion, or respects him overall? And has he spoken to any other Supreme Court justices?
The president respects Chief Justice Roberts overall. He just expressed that to me in the Oval Office. But it's also quite clear that the Supreme Court needs to rein in these judges who are acting as partisan activists, and they are undermining the judicial branch. And it's a dereliction of duty on their behalf. Deanna, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Caroline. On the call with Zelensky, did they discuss the minerals deal at all? Is that back on the table, and what do the Ukrainians have to do to get that back on the table? And then one on the Russia call as well.
Again, I just provided a very lengthy readout of the call that was provided by the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor. And now we have moved beyond the economic minerals deal. We are at a place of peace. We're at a partial ceasefire, and we're moving towards a full ceasefire and a long-standing peace.
I mean, that's another thing. Like, so the left is literally watching President Trump make peace for like the Ukrainian people and stuff like that. How can they not be in support of this? Saying, this is great. This is great that the war is ending. This is great that peace is on the horizon. They might be mad because they're like, oh, I don't like the concessions that might have had to be made. That's better than like 4 more years of war with people dying. But I've heard like left politicians and news sources say that they would prefer 4 more years of war. I'm sure the people don't want that. It's real easy for like these stuffy like American liberals to say that, oh yeah, we'd prefer 4 more years of war. I don't believe the Ukrainians want to die for 4 more years if thousands of people are dying on both sides of the conflict each day. And I don't think that the Russians really even want it to keep going on because their people are dying. The Russian leaders probably don't care, to be honest. But the people should. When they see their neighbors' children going off to war and then those kids are never going to come home because they're dead, yes, they are people too and they are going to care. This is ridiculous. I'm getting very frustrated. I'm normally not getting frustrated like this, but the repetitiveness of these questions and everything that I've been seeing, man, it's truly getting frustrating to like a level that I've never felt before while doing these nightly news streams. And not just the repetitiveness, just like the hypocrisy. People hate hypocrisy because it insults our intelligence. Naturally, people think, well, what the heck? And we don't like hypocrisy because we're like, can't you tell that I can see this? I can tell that it's hypocritical. Why are you even supporting this? You probably don't even support it. This is disingenuous. And then people get upset, right? I just deleted this because I want more money, more copper.
In this conflict, and that's great news for the American public.
The Kremlin readout mentioned that Trump and Putin spoke about potential U.S.-Russia hockey games, and the Kremlin readout also said that Russia wanted the U.S. to stop U.S. intelligence and U.S. funding to Ukraine. The president has said that that conversation did not happen. Just wondering if you can get us any more clarity on that, and also, again, if it's energy infrastructure or if it's energy and infrastructure, because I think there is a big...
Dude, if there is peace, though, like, honestly, the left, they, like, I'm not necessarily a right supporter. I'm not. I'm not a left supporter, clearly, especially not in today's day and age, with what's happening. But I will tell you this, I'm a common sense supporter, an actual common sense supporter, and to be honest, I keep thinking to myself, well, what if we had a left president that was doing all of this stuff? Would the left be happy and support it? You bet your bottom dollar they would. They would support absolutely every single thing that Trump is doing if a leftist was doing it, which they very well could, because the type of stuff that Doge is doing, deporting evil, mean people. And I mean, even though the open borders thing is kind of like a leftist thing, but like, they emotional language is what the left has been using ever since I was a child to like win people over to their side and stuff like that. Um, and by saying things like we have to get rid of these people because children are being killed and raped, right? If this was a position that the left was taking, every single news source would be supporting it. And would the Conservative Party be just arguing against it and saying no, we need these terrorists here, and opposing it just for the sake of opposing it and trying to pit the American people against each other? Probably. I mean, that's why I hate like these news sources, and they're so disingenuous, and they're not necessarily reporting on truth or anything like that, or even trying to unite the American people. It almost seems like they're trying to split the American people apart. When I was watching this Biden speech from when he was leaving the office, somebody in stream asked me to watch it the other day, and he was like thinking of some weird like conspiracy tinfoil hat theories and stuff like that. When I watched the Biden speech, the only thing that I could think about was that his language seemed to be inflammatory to the point where it would be riling people up to make people hate each other. Like that's what it seemed like. It seemed like there was a purpose behind it, behind his words and his syntax and his diction and his tone, even in some ways, even though he was like struggling, but not struggling as much as he normally struggles to speak. And again, the thing that's always in the back of my mind is like, would the left support this if it was a leftist president or whoever trying to get this kind of thing done? Yeah, they would, because people on the left can think in a common sense manner, and I don't understand why we're choosing to argue against things that are obviously good. I don't understand. Again, it's like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm reading Animal Farm right now. The sheep don't think, and they repeat everything that the government essentially tells them to say. That's what's happening, and it's in America, and it's very scary.
Again, as for the readouts of the call, I would defer you to ours. And when it comes to the topic of hockey, it did come up. However, we're more interested in securing a peace deal than scheduling hockey games right now. Sean.
Hey, about the deportation flight. So, was it the president himself who directed the planes to stay in the air after the judge ordered them to turn back?
The president invoked the Aliens Enemies Act with a proclamation, which then directed the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State to move forward with the plan of action. And as I said yesterday, all of the planes that were subject to the judge's written order took off before the order was submitted in court.
They have reported on this already so many times. Why are these reporters asking these questions as if they don't know the answers? Stop. It's so slimy.
I was asked and answered that question multiple times yesterday. Kate, go ahead.
Is the president still considering pressuring Russia with sanctions or tariffs to try to get a full ceasefire? And is there any kind of deadline or timeline that the White House has in mind for when that pressure might ramp up?
Again, the president had a nearly 2-hour-long call with President Putin yesterday. We provided a readout of that call.
And that's huge, right? Something that everyone's been saying, oh, this will never happen. Bro, it happened. And how many days did it take to get like the strategic ducks in the line to be able to make this call like effective? For crying out loud, right? To start effectively attempting to end a war and to get it done in how many days has it been? Has it been like 60? I don't even know. I'm not keeping track of this, right? That is like, that's pretty, I don't know if that's unheard of. I almost said it was unheard of, but because I'm pretty sure like wars and conflicts have risen and died off quicker than that. But a war that's been going on for 4 years, to have someone that is not of the nation come in and go, yeah, okay, I'll be the mediator. Guys, stop fighting. And then they go, oh, okay, yeah, we'll stop fighting, is so ridiculous. Like, why couldn't this have been done earlier?
And we have his negotiating team heading to the Middle East this week to continue these discussions in regards to sanctions and any other details. I'm not going to give a readout of those from this podium.
And on TikTok, is Oracle the leading contender for a deal? And would the U.S. back a deal that keeps TikTok's algorithm and the underlying technology still in Chinese hands?
As President Trump does so well, we don't get ahead of ourselves when we are in the midst of the art of the deal. So when the president and this team are ready to announce a deal on TikTok, which is a high priority for the president, we will make that known. I've seen that reporting, but I'm not going to comment on it just yet. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Press Secretary Levitt. Some prominent Trump supporters have been making the case that Derek Chauvin deserves a pardon. They argue that he did not receive a fair trial. Joe Biden and other Democrats actually implied that he was guilty while the trial was going on. BLM rioters had these jurors under immense threat and pressure. Mainstream media, frankly, many news outlets here today are complicit here. They chose to ignore the autopsy report. They chose to ignore the full body camera footage. They decided to slander Derek Chauvin as a racist cop instead. Does the administration believe Derek Chauvin received a fair trial, and will they consider a pardon moving forward?
The president has been asked and answered this question. He said it's not something he's considering at this time. Philip.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that this guy, I've seen or heard or something. If this is this the cop with the George Floyd thing? I I don't know who the guy's name, but if it's that guy, yeah, he wasn't necessarily a nice cop, right? So it's interesting and maybe even good that Trump isn't, you know, supporting this, because why would you if he's actually like a pretty terrible officer, like, and has had like many complaints against him and other problems, and then this happens, right? That's at least how I understand it. But I could be wrong. Again, it's good to see something being like something not being supported just like like just because like the Conservative Party, it seems like they should support this. Trump is not necessarily supporting it. It seems, surprisingly, it seems common sense, because traditionally I've not been like somebody that's like, oh yeah, Trump's a good guy. I was like, he felt like kind of a dummy president the first time around, and why was this guy that was saying you got fired on TV when I was a kid now the president? It always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But there's good stuff that is happening. I'm not saying everything. Clearly, there's also probably some shady stuff happening, but some of these big things are maybe pretty good. you know, I don't know. I don't know though. We'll see. We'll have to see as more information and more actions take place. Because if the war on the Ukraine is ended right soon, because it seems like it is now, that is exciting. That is good. No matter who you are, right or left, you should be happy that this is happening. Yet I know people are going to get angry about it, because they are about everything. They're even angry about that kid that had brain cancer or whatever, and they wouldn't stand for him. Like I've seen these like things throughout my life, and bipartisan, when it's appropriate to stand up for something, they will, because they're supporting that thing. And you need to be the voice of your party, not the voice of contention. Nobody likes people that are unnecessarily, unwaveringly contentious. Nobody does, which is why the Democratic Party is actually down to the lowest rate of supporters. So what is it's down to 27% now or something, right? 27 according to like MSNBC and CNN was 28 the other day. Jon Stewart even is reporting on this, right? It's obvious. Like the Democratic Party is angry at the Democratic Party because they're not necessarily being common sense, and it almost seems like they're trying to kill their party, maybe strategically kill their party, go so far left that it's like all we have left is reform, and maybe somebody in the Democratic Party will rise up as the savior of the Democratic Party, right? That's kind of like what I think, I think this is actually leading, because you have to follow the money. The left is smart. They're strategic. Just like any political party, they're manipulative, and they use propaganda to control the people. And the people are screaming in support of something that makes no sense. While this is happening, more and more people are falling away and falling away and falling away. The moderate people are falling away from supporting that party that they want to support. So give it a year, maybe a year and a half. They're going to find somebody, and within 2 years, that person is going to be esteemed as the savior of the party. I have a big feeling. Clip it, right? That kind of thing. It seems like that's where this is going. The dark side the dark side of this is if they end up actually killing the party and nobody trusts the Democratic Party anymore, and we become a one party state where the entire nation ends up only supporting one party, the which is currently what the right is, and they'll call it the common sense party, probably, right? Because that seems to be the vernacular of the day. And that's a scary thought, isn't it? We don't want that to happen. So the Democrats, please, need to start being more common sense about this. When we see, okay, clearly there's so much evidence this guy like killed all these people and even raped some young children, young girls. Like we have hard evidence of this, and we see this, and they're illegals, and we have a loophole to get rid of them because it's written into the law, and that is the due process. It's just an expedited due process. I don't know why people wouldn't support this, because we want to get bad people out of here. Why not? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Uh, Go back. Hmm. In other news, I'm still very sad that my no talent shaman died ironically, about 15 minutes after I spent the talent points. I don't know what caused that. I was going 0 talent points and kicking butt. I spend the talent points, and then out of nowhere, 8 mobs, or actually I think a little more, get on me, surround me, and kill me, even after I boost myself up to full HP twice. When I got down to like less than 5% HP, healing myself and escaping, and healing myself and escaping, and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was kind of fun, actually. I probably should clip that and post it, because it was probably my most fun death, because it happened while I was in stream with somebody that we were talking like all night long, and it was kind of cool and kind of fun. I never thought like I would feel this way after a death, because other deaths have felt really bad, but this one was it was just a little funny and fun. So yeah. But yeah, let's get to some more of this.
Thank you. Two questions. First, just a follow-up on the readouts from those calls. When it comes to the discrepancies between the U.S. and Russian readout of that call between President Trump and Putin, is it the president's assessment is something that's getting lost in translation, or does he believe that the Russians are trying to play games here?
Nope. The president believes in his team that put the readout out, and he also put his own out on Truth Social. We've been incredibly transparent about all of the president's calls with foreign leaders, and again, I would defer you to the readout.
And then following up
Michael.
on...
Thank you, Caroline. White House said yesterday that gas prices across the U.S. have fallen for the 4th straight week. 34 states now seeing gas under $3 a gallon. This limited ceasefire with Ukraine regarding oil refineries, energy, will that affect gas prices here in the U.S.?
Well, it's certainly the president's hope that gas prices will continue to fall, and he's working every single day to ensure that we do. As you just mentioned, there's been very encouraging data. Inflation is cooling and gas prices are falling. The president has established a National Energy Dominance Council, and it's ultimately the president's goal. And this administration is working hard on it every single day to increase our energy production right here in the United States of America.
It's crazy how much stuff is happening.
To have a Trump energy boom like we saw in our first term, which will not only lead to lower fuel prices here at home, but also lessen the rate of inflation that was created by the previous administration.
One more on Tesla, Caroline. Tim Walz, Governor Walz, saying last night he frequently checks Tesla stock. In doing so, to quote, give me a little boost during the day. How should Americans view politicians who take pride in the downfall of an American car company?
I think that's quite sad, but I think Governor Walz unfortunately is living a sad existence after his devastating defeat on November 5th. Reagan. Reagan, go ahead.
What a thing to say.
Tesla cars are being lit on fire, dealerships are being shot up, Molotov cocktails are being used. There was a website posted yesterday that shared the addresses of private Tesla owners and reportedly had Kash Patel's information on it. AG Bondi has called this acts of domestic terrorism. Does the White House have any indication that this is some sort of coordinated movement or that it's being funded by some outside group? And do you know if the investigation by the DOJ is being investigated as...
Well, they know that there's like these, like I've seen it, right? I think it was like on Asmongold's channel or something. It's pretty well known. There are organizations that are like coordinating this kind of stuff. Like they post like, hey, here's where you can target if you want to target something, and it's a little anonymous. I mean, it's a little ambiguous, but it that's like a start. So if that's happening, clearly it's happening in some other ways. Or people are just going nuts, like collectively because of Reddit or whatever, you know. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
incidents
Oops.
of organized terror?
I believe the Attorney General has made her comments clear on that. She is investigating these events as acts of domestic terrorism, and we fully condemn them. And as I said earlier to Jackie's question, we think it's despicable what is happening to not just this American company, but also their innocent employees. And again, innocent Americans who drive these vehicles. And we condemn it wholeheartedly. Sure.
More than 24,000 workers at 18 agencies are in the process of being reinstated. What is your message to these workers, and can you assure them they won't be fired again as the administration directs agencies to do more layoffs?
Well, the administration is complying with the court's order. Again, as I have spoken about repeatedly, we think it's despicable that we have judges acting as judicial activists, partisan activists, trying to dictate who the President of the United States, the executive of the executive branch, can hire and fire. We have never seen anything like this. We are fighting this in court, and we will continue to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court if we have to. And as for federal employees, it's been the very common sense position of this president and the administration that bureaucrats here in Washington, D.C. need to show up to the office just like the rest of America. Middle-class Americans, from doctors to business owners to teachers to law enforcement officers, have to show up to their offices every single day. And the president has made it a clear priority that people in this city have to do the same. And we are also continue to be committed to reducing the scale of our workforce and to reducing the size of our federal bureaucracy here in Washington, D.C. to save taxpayers' money. Annie, go ahead.
Thanks so much. In the statement that you read, you referenced the president's interest in helping return Ukrainian children to their parents, to their families. There's an organization that provides intel and information about those children that their aid has been cut. It's a Yale University program that used foreign aid. And I'm curious if, as part of this new thinking with Ukraine, that aid might be unfrozen.
I have no updates about that or that specific program at this time. Karen.
Thanks, Caroline. Just to
follow up on your answer to the question on the minerals deal. You said that the White House has moved beyond the minerals deal. What does that mean? Is that no
Yeah.
longer on
Nope.
the table?
Nope. It means the minerals deal was that first set of framework that you all saw in that very public meeting with President Zelensky and President Trump in the Oval Office. We are now focused on a long-term peace agreement. As you know, on that deal or that meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump, the Ukrainian president at the time wasn't talking about a greater peace deal. We are now at that place where we are talking about that. So we've moved beyond just the economic minerals deal framework, and we're looking at a lasting ceasefire. Right now we're at a partial ceasefire, but again, the president is sending his highly skilled, intelligent, and experienced team to Saudi Arabia later this week to continue fighting for peace in this conflict. And I would just reiterate one more time, we have never been closer to peace than we are today. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you later.
But I don't. I mean, honestly, to be honest, it's probably better if we don't have like a minerals deal where we have a building sitting in like the Ukraine, because then if Russia attacks it, because they might break a ceasefire, right? They might attack the area and they might attack our mineral site. Then all of a sudden, America is forced into a conflict against what do you call it? Against Putin. So honestly, it's probably better that we don't have the minerals deal, but it's a little concerning because the whole point was like, oh, they well, we lost a lot of money in the support or whatever, and we would like to recoup some of that. Give us your minerals, you know. And that was like their whole angle. Um, but it sounds like she's saying they moved beyond it. We saw the first little thing. Did they ever sign that minerals deal? It doesn't sound like they did. It sounds like she's kind of avoiding it. I'm not used to her avoiding this kind of thing. So I'm wondering what the motive is for avoiding this question, to not say directly, no, we're not doing the minerals deal anymore. She just said we've moved beyond it. What does that mean? That sounds like you've ended it, but it means you moved beyond it and you're doing this now instead, and that the other thing is still on the table with the mineral. What is your plan with the minerals now? Like, are we going to risk putting a mine there basically now? What's going on? So yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, that was the first one. I thought there was two, but I'm not seeing the second one. Yeah, I thought there was one from yesterday. Maybe they just haven't posted it yet. Maybe it's on Forbes. I was so hard to find on Forbes yesterday, and then like I didn't save the URL and it got closed. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it again. I prefer to watch on Forbes, but I couldn't find them, so we're on the White House's website. And to be honest, if we're watching it anyway, they kind of do have better audio and angles and stuff like that from the White House's post. And like sometimes you can see the charts when you wouldn't otherwise see them. I don't really know if I want to listen to this. The audio didn't sound that great. And is he just like. I thought he was talking about tariffs in this video. But American Dynamism Summit delivers remarks. I'm pretty sure he's talking about tariffs here, but like I kind of really don't feel like hearing from this guy. Maybe we'll watch a little bit of it. And then we also have this new thing, and I think this guy is talking about a new plane in this video, so I'm kind of curious about it because I'd like to see what this new aircraft is. Maybe we'll watch this one first. Whoa. What is with the audio?
Can get a proper education. The numbers are horrible the way it is, and we're going to make a move that's very big. I don't think it's even risky a little bit. I think it's going to be, but nobody, and great acceptance of it by almost everybody, including a lot of Democrats, actually. I do want to say that I've decided that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, headed by Kelly Loeffler, is a terrific person, will handle all of the student loan portfolio. We have a portfolio that's very large, lots of loans, tens of thousands of loans. pretty complicated deal. And that's coming out of the Department of Education immediately, and it's going to be headed up by Kelly Loeffler at SBA, and they're all set for it. They're waiting for it. It'll be serviced much better than it has in the past. It's been a mess. And also, Bobby Kennedy, the Health and Human Services, will be handling special needs and all of the nutrition programs and everything else. Rather complex, but that's going to be headed by and handled by Health and Human Services.
I mean, I really don't know what this Bobby Kennedy, Robert Kennedy guy is he really going to really be doing. I've heard like thoughts and ideas, and like he says this kind of stuff. But every time I go to the grocery store and I see something like cheese puffs, or like, I don't know, Pop Rocks, for example, do they even still sell those? But I see like these weird like kinds of candies or foods or food options or whatever, and I'm like, dude, where's RFK? And my wife and she kind of doesn't really, she humors me with these jokes, but I am regularly commenting on how we need RFK to save us from this bad food. I'm joking, but it is kind of fun walking through the grocery store and saying that you want RFK to save you from like cookies or something like that, or like a certain like food that looks kind of like weird because there's clearly like a ton of food dye in it and stuff like that. This world. Okay.
So I think that'll work out very well. Those two elements will be taken out of the Department of Education, and then all we have to do is get the students to get guidance from the people that love them and cherish them, including their parents, by the way, who will be totally involved in their education along with the boards and the governors and the states. And it's going to be a great situation. I guarantee that in a few years from now, I hope I'm going to be around to see it, but I think we're going to see a lot of it. I think that you're going to have tremendous results. You're going to have results like Norway, Sweden.
A few years. I hope I'm around to see it. A few years. Trump lets information slip by accident a lot of times. Dude, does he have cancer? Is he going to die? Does he know about this? Is Vance just going to become the president? Are you kidding me? Or by a few years, does he mean a lot longer, right? But he said a few. That's like 3. A few literally means 3. It means much sooner than like 4 or 5. I guess it could be 4 or 5, but you're looking around closer to. I don't know, because you say a few, right? That's little, and it's going to be more than a couple. What a crazy conspiracy theory that I just touted. Does he think he's going to die soon? Is something happening? Is he afraid that there's going to be another assassination attempt? Or is something going on with his health? I wonder. Makes me a little curious, to be honest. It does make me a little curious. Here we go.
Denmark, a lot of the countries that do so well, I think you're going to have a lot of those results. If you look at Iowa and Indiana and Idaho, so many places that run so well, Florida, Texas, big ones, you're going to have great education, much better than it is now at half the cost. And we're not even doing it as a cost item, although you will save probably half, maybe more than that. And you're not going to be at the bottom of the list. You're going to be much higher. And maybe you'll be, I will guarantee some of the states will be at the top of the list. They'll be comparable or better than these number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries, the countries that are in the top 5 positions. So that's, to me, it's very exciting, and it's been received very well. So I just wanted to tell you about the student loans and special needs. But we're here for a reason today that is very exciting, and I'm thrilled to announce that at my direction, the United States Air Force is moving forward with the world's first 6th generation fighter jet. Number 6, 6th generation. Nothing in the world comes even close to it. And it'll be known as the F-47. The generals picked a title, and it's a beautiful number, F-47. It's something the likes of which nobody has seen before in terms of all of the attributes of a fighter jet. There's never been anything even close to it, from speed to maneuverability to what it can have to payload. And this has been in the works for a long period of time. After a rigorous and thorough competition between some of America's top aerospace companies, the Air Force is going to be awarding the contract for the next generation air dominance platform to Boeing. As you know, was highly competed for. There was a lot of competition, generals, and it's been going on for a long time. Very, very tough competition, but this plane is produced numbers that nobody's ever seen before. The F-47 will be the most advanced, most capable, most lethal aircraft ever built. An experimental version of the plane has secretly been flying for almost 5 years, and we're confident that it massively overpowers the capabilities of any other nation. There's no other nation. We know every other plane. I've seen every one of them, and it's not even close. This is a next level. You know, level 5 is good. This is level 6, they say. The F-47 is equipped with state-of-the-art stealth technology. It's virtually unseeable and unprecedented power. It's got the
virtually unseeable. Is that like that camouflage technology?
Most power of any jet of its kind ever made. Maneuverability, likewise, is there's never been anything like it, despite the power and speed. Its speed is top. It's over 2, which is something that you don't hear very often. America's enemies will never see it coming. Hopefully we won't have to use it for that purpose, but you have to have it. And if it ever happens, they won't know what the hell hit them. A new fleet of these magnificent planes will be built in the air during my administration for the next couple of years. It's ready to go. They've already built much of what has to be built in terms of production, including the sheds. We'll ensure that the USA continues to dominate the skies. We've given an order for a lot. We can't tell you the price because it would give way to some of the technology and some of the size of the plane, good sized plane. This contract also represents a historic investment in our defense industrial base, helping to keep America at the cutting edge of aerospace and technology. Our allies are calling constantly. They want to buy them also, and certain allies will be selling them, perhaps toned down versions. We like to tone them down about 10%, which probably makes sense because someday maybe they're not our allies, right? But I would like to ask Secretary.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a concern, right? Art of the deal, though, you have to understand that he's probably lying about it being toned down 10%. It's probably going to be way more than that. And the other countries are just going to assume, oh, we're getting 10% less, but it's going to be like 25% less capable or something like that. And why would the US military intelligence even release the full capabilities of what they've created? Because that would be less strategic to do that. Like, there's probably stuff that this plane can do that they're not going to release or even talk about. Like, he mentioned the stealth thing is super great, but there's probably another level to this stealth technology or something else that the plane can do that is unheard of, that they're never going to mention until they can use it. Like, why else would they? This is clear defense tactic. Anyway.
Who's doing a fantastic job. He's really been very inspiring in so many ways, and I must say that before he speaks, we have had record people wanting to join our military in the last 2.5 months, literally since this, I think probably since the election, November 5th, but especially since we came to office and since I announced Pete. He's young, he's smart, he's strong, he loves it, and they love him. But we've had record numbers of people wanting to join our military. Now, if you go back 6 months, it was the exact opposite. You had record numbers of people not wanting to join the military. Now you have record numbers of people wanting to be in our military. And
it's a huge
boost. That's a great honor. That shows you we're really on the right track. So, Pete, maybe say a few words.
Sure.
Please.
Well, Mr. President, this is a big day. This is a big day for our warfighters. This is a big day for our country, a big day in the world. The name of this program is the Next Generation of Air dominance. And Mr. President, because of your leadership, your clarity, America is going to have generations in the future of air dominance because of this 6th generation fighter. We've had the F-15, we had the F-16, the F-18, the F-22, the F-35. Now we have the F-47, which sends a very direct, clear message to our allies that we're not going anywhere, and to our enemies that we will be able to project power around the globe unimpeded for generations to come. Mr. President, this is a gift to my kids and your kids, to my grandkids and your grandkids.
That's an interesting
concept. This is a historic investment in the American military, in the American industrial base, in American industry that will help revive the warrior ethos inside our military, which we're doing, rebuild our military, which the previous administration did not do, by the way, Mr. President. They paused this program and were prepared to potentially scrap it. We know this is cheaper, longer range, and more stealthy. President Trump said we're reviving it and we're doing it. And then we are also going to reestablish deterrence. Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
Thank you very much, Pete. One of the things I will say, but the generals are going to speak in just a couple of seconds, but this plane flies with drones. It flies with many, many drones. And it's a technology.
What? Okay, so here's the thing. I have a theory that drones can latch onto planes in a stealthy fashion and destroy them, but they would do it like before takeoff. I'm wondering if that's why so many planes were crashing. There was a lot. There still is. And we had all those those drones in our country that the government has then said, "Oh, that was our drones all along. Oops." But the military leaders were saying, "We don't know what these are." At the time when all those drones were coming into our country. I don't really know if there's anything to really be said about this situation, but it does raise some eyebrows, and it does make me concerned in some ways. So yeah, these are some thoughts. That's really about it, but these are some thoughts in regards to this situation. But yeah, anyway. I have so many skibbity darn things in my bags, and I need more space. I can't even do the engineering that I want to do. Okay. Because I have to carry all this stuff all the way over to the engineering area. What can I put in the bank? Like quest items, I guess? I'll never remember to take those out again. Maybe some copper. I think I have a lot. I might not need this much linen. That's probably a good start. What does the smelting look like? I can still gain levels from smelting bronze, maybe? What do I need to do to really level this up? Okay, so we got the silver-plated gun I can give to a hunter. I don't really want to use a gun on my... Let me see. How much would it cost if I just buy a bow? Because I don't feel like listening to gunshot sounds on my second hunter. I want it to be a slow bow if I can find one. Otherwise, I'll have to do gunshot because I'm going to be weaving. I'm going to be melee hunter for the most part, weaving in as many melee attacks as I can. So we'll see. What options do we have? Because if you get a slow weapon, you shoot, you run in, you hit, you root, because it's survival talents, and you hit again, and so on and so forth. So let's see. We'll go to browse. We'll see what they have to offer. I mean, we're still very low on the hunter, but we'll see what they have to offer. So we're here with the weapons. Where's bows? How am I not? Oh, okay, it's alphabetical. Okay, bows. Ooh, it's called the Hurricane. That sounds fun, but it looks dumb. None of these bows look good. They're just sticks. Do guns look more fun? Like, I really wanted to make a female Thorin for guns, uh, because the gun looks really big, and it kind of fits the RP, and they have more stamina for survival. But I mean, it is what it is. So, what do the fist weapons look like? Right, so I can buy these at level 10. Right and left knuckles. That's a gold each. Level 10. And then level 29, you finally get some better ones. They attack very fast. And then these slicers for level 46. Is it unique equipped? No, but it's only main hand. So this makes me think that if I do the unarmed, or what do you call it, fist weapon undead female, I'm going to have to make it a warrior, because I think they'll still go on all fours if I have a shield in the offhand, because I can only get main hand, like as far as just buying it. Um, it's kind of sucks because this warrior is also just going prot. So maybe I'll respec this one, because I really actually wanted to do arms on this because I want one very large weapon, two-handed, and Tauren female. The weapons they actually look the largest with hero model size comparison, kind of like how human female has the largest comparison to hero model size and weapon size. So that's a cosmetic thing, and respecking this might be kind of good because then I could have some fun going down this tree. However, I won't have as much protection in protection, but I will have fun doing the stance dancing and stuff like that, and charging in and thunderclapping and what have you. And maybe I could still go tank, just feel how tank in arms feels. Or maybe I could go Fury, just because Piercing Howl is so OP. They can't chase you. They get dazed for 6 seconds and you get out of there. It's like this huge AoE slow, right? That seems super strong. Increase your chance to get crits. Really, you go sweeping strikes, and then you go, what, swords? And then you're forced into swords if you go down arms. Okay, well, I'm going to be thinking about this and maybe buying some things in the auction house, and then we'll keep listening to this video. But yeah, I do need to get a drink, and I'll be back in like maybe a snack too, so maybe like 4 minutes. Uh, cool. It's awesome that someone's here and watching. I really appreciate the support. I can't wait to come back and listen to like them talk about this new jet some more, and then also maybe talk about some like other neat strategy things. Maybe if you're curious, I'll explain exactly what I'm talking about with this fist only weapon strategy, and like what the cosmetic RP is going to be all about. And I'm also just trying to get some engineering out of the way and done so that I can get some guns over to my hunter, and some things to help it level a bit faster, just because it's a go again character. So let's see how that goes. BRB, BRB. Okay, I'm back. Well, I don't like it when these guys come in here and how do we go live? Watch live. We've got Expressive Hotel. Somebody named Expressive Hotel that is trying to sell viewers or something. Well, let's ban this guy. Ban. We got a new follower. Okay. Follow them back. I think this is the person that wanted me to follow them. Uh, Somebody asked about it. We will double check the YouTube channel. It's looking good. Okie dokie. Oh wow, I've got 3 subscribers. That makes me happy. I really appreciate the support. I actually really do. Okay, so do we make the rough boomstick or do we just buy something for level 6 and beyond? Let's see if they have a slow bow. This is where we're leaving off. And we'll talk a little bit before we watch the rest of this video, because I want to make sure that we make some good decisions for the character. Now this is a very slow bow, and it's level 6, and it's probably just slightly stronger than the rough boomstick. It is. And we get to have the experience of using a bow for a little bit. So that's nice. And then there's this heavy short bow that's also slow. But wow, this is very expensive. Maybe we can buy one. See, then the fine short bow is way too fast. So we want a slow weapon. So we will buy the heavy short bow. Fine longbow, is that a good one? Oh, that's really good. If they have a good price, I'll just buy it now and we'll keep all of these on the character and it's like bank or something. So we can always upgrade it. Okay, fine longbow is not... Okay, it's not... Well, maybe we'll make a bunch of scopes. Can I make scopes on engineering? I think so, and we can put them on all these weapons before we sell them, or before we send them over. So yeah, 78 silver seems good. Buyout. That's the fine longbow. Let's go back. Which was the good bow over here? Was it literally just the hunting bow? I think so. Level 6 hunting bow. And we can get that for 12 silver. All right, buyout. And there's a third weapon. Might as well be upgrading these things when you can. Especially if they're as cheap as what I'm seeing here. I thought I saw a 9 silver one. Did that get taken? 15. Oh, wait, so there's fine short bow. We don't want that. We want heavy short bow at level 10. And this will be 15 silver. Buyout. Okay, we can send all 3 of those over to Kahboomzie. Kaboomin. We can make the 3 scopes. Spyglass. Increase the damage by 2. Well, if I buy a Masagate, it depends on how much those cost. Will this help level up engineering? Barely. The crude scope, I could use that on the smaller ones. Increasing damage by 1. Okay. Let's compare. Okay, so standard scope requires level 10. Okay. Can I just buy one? Would it be cheaper to just buy it than make it? No. Maybe. How about shopping? Okay, so 10 silver. Okay. Versus Moss Agate. Way too much money. So, buy a couple standard scopes, actually. 12 stacks of 1. Wow. Okay. Buy 12 stacks of 1. Okay, buy 2. And then we want to make a crude scope because we have enough for that. And we will send these on over. Axe. Okay. I would like to get a bunch of engineering done, but we do need to go over to the hunter and buy like weapon training and a whole bunch of other things. So we'll send these things over to him. Send to who is it? Not Kahboomzie. Kahboomin. Kahboomin. There are the 3 bows. There are the scopes. Send them over. Here is a dagger for me. A hammer for me. I don't need these. I'll just put them in the auction, not the auction, the bank for now, and then we can log. We can log over, and then we can start watching this video again. I just have to talk through some of this, otherwise I'll just run in circles in Orgrimmar. Two-handed mace, main hand mace, bind when equipped. Give. I might as well send these 2 items over to him as well, because he can use them. And yeah, eventually. I'm really sad that I lost my enchanter, but I'm not too sad because I love to level enchanting. It's so fun to me. So hopefully that is something that I'll be able to do again on one of the characters that I currently have. Maybe I'll swap a profession from like a double gather over to enchanting, or maybe I'll make a new character for that. But oh wait, I don't necessarily need to go anywhere with this character. I'll leave it here so I remember where I'm oriented. And let's log over. Kahboomin?
Technology that's new, but it doesn't fly by itself. It flies with many drones, as many as we want, and that's something that no other plane can do. So I'd like to introduce, if I might, Air Force Chief of Staff General David Alvin, and also General Dale White, 2 incredible people that I've known over the years, but I got to know them really well over the last few months. And would you say a few words, please, General?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for your unwavering commitment to our military. I will say that this is a big day. This is a big day for our United States Air Force as well. You know, air dominance is not a birthright, but it's become synonymous with American air power. But air dominance needs to be earned every single day. And since the earliest days of aerial warfare, brave American airmen have jumped into their machines, taken to the air, and they've cleared the skies. And whether that be clearing the skies so we can rain down destruction on our enemies from above, or we can clear the path to the ground forces below. That's been our commitment to the fight, and that's really been our promise to America. And with this F-47 as the crown jewel in the next generation air dominance family of systems, we're going to be able to keep that promise well into the future. I also want to thank everyone from industry and within government, our engineers, who have worked tirelessly on this program to bring it where we are right now today. This shows that American talent, American skill, and American determination are second to none, because this platform is second to none. So we believe that this provides more lethality, it provides more capability, more modernized capability in a way that is built to adapt. This, along with our collaborative combat aircraft the President talked about with drones, this is allowing us to look into the future and unlock the magic that is human-machine teaming. And as we do that, we're going to write the next generation of modern aerial warfare with this. This enables us to do this. The manner in which we put this program together puts more control in the hands of the government, so we can update and adapt at the speed of relevance, at the speed of technology, not at the speed of bureaucracy. This is more Air Force. This is more options for the President. We say as our mission in the United States Air Force is to fly, fight, and win air power anytime, anywhere. If you want to go anywhere, you have to have a platform that gets you anywhere. This provides the President options from the very one end, which is a quick response, and then we can get right back into fight and stance without having to deploy troops that are going to take maybe months and cost more lives. We can be back in fight and stance, and maybe we restore that deterrence. All the way to decisive victory as part of a joint force that is the most lethal and capable military ever known in history. That's what we provide now, and this allows us to provide it into the future. It's more deterrence, more capability. It's what peace through strength looks like into the future, Mr. President. And so we're very proud to do that. And all we can say is, on behalf of the United States Air Force, let's deliver.
Thank you very much. Thank you, General. Would you like to say something?
No, sir, I'll just double down what the chief said.
He knows what to do.
Generational
He knows
lead.
who the boss is.
That's exactly right. Air superiority is what it's all about, and this is what we'll deliver.
That's great. Thank you very much. Great job. We've worked together long and hard on this, and this was a big secret. In fact, we don't show too much of the plane for that reason. See what we show? You see how beautiful that is, but that's just a very small part of it.
Sure.
I wasn't surprised. I was wondering how much are you going to show when they came in with that. You see a wheel in the front? That's about it. Any questions?
Mr. President Trump,
Peter?
is 80,000 pages.
I wouldn't be surprised if the plane doesn't even actually look like that from the front. I wouldn't be surprised because it's totally military strategic tactics that we might be seeing at work here and stuff like that. So yeah.
Of documents is a lot to sift through.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us who killed Kennedy?
Well, I was given the task of releasing that because many presidents have gone through it and they haven't released. And I said, release. We even released Social Security numbers. I didn't want anything deleted. They said so.
I don't know. I didn't read it. Is that what he's saying? Okay.
What about Social Security? People long gone, but they're long gone, so I can't imagine. But I said, if you don't delete it, if you do delete it, we have people are going to say, why did you delete it? There's something in there. So we gave Social Security, we gave everything. And the rest is for you to look at, Peter. You're going to see whether or not you see anything. But we've given it. We're doing it with Dr. Martin Luther King, too. They're preparing all of that. They're going to release everything. And whoever else they want. I mean, we have nothing. We really have nothing to hide. We shouldn't have. When a lot of time goes by. But with the Kennedy files, in particular, they were going crazy on them. I don't think there's anything that's earth-shattering, but you'll have to make that determination. In those, it's 80,000. It's actually 88,000, and we have some additional things, as you know, come out today. And for that, you can go to the offices and you can see whatever you want to see. Everything is out there, totally open. The additional stuff is available later on today. You go over to the offices and you can have it immediately. And you'll make a determination.
And on something else, these Trende Aragua guys, because of your executive order, they are designated as foreign terrorists.
Yeah.
If ISIS or Al-Qaeda foreign terrorists were operating here in the United States, cops would probably be shooting first and asking questions later. And so what is the difference between terrorists, between somebody like an ISIS or an Al-Qaeda operative versus a MS-13 or Trende Aragua?
Well, these are people that focus on destroying people in their homes. They're not as international in that sense.
Oh, cool. Hey, I see somebody's in stream. You're asking me if I want you to share your favorite Bible verse? Well, to be honest, Whenever I've had somebody ask that question recently, it's like a second-handed like verse where they're trying to either twist the scripture or something. So hopefully what you're saying is genuine. um, because there has been some like stuff that has come out from people just like in like normal WoW chat, and I'm like, oh, okay, oh, so I see why you're using that verse. You're like a Latter-day Saint or a Mormon or something, and this is a common verse that is twisted by that organization, and then I have to address it, and I mean, I'm kind of watching. We're actually we've been talking a lot about politics today for the nightly news, rather than it being like a Bible study night and stuff like that. So part of me kind of is just inclined to want to keep it a little more focused. But if your comment is genuine, cool. Yeah, I'm very curious about that. Otherwise, it is what it is. So, apprentice leatherworking, because engineering is OP and I feel like I'm cheating with it. And also, I kind of like the idea of making money. And I hear you can actually make a decent amount of money with leatherworking in hardcore. Um, so leatherworking has always kind of been like the dream for me. Like, go kill a ton of beasts, make the skins, make the gear. It just the RP that goes along with it is just so nice. Just for me. And it's very encouraging to learn that, hey, you can make a lot of money with this. Of So hopefully I'll be able to make a lot of money and then pay back Footloose, the amazing guy who's donated gold for our stream so that we can do some fun things. Super awesome guy. I am like super blessed. I'm very happy. And it was really nice of him to do this after a couple deaths yesterday, as we were doing some of our zero talent builds and stuff like that. That ironically, the moment we were like, "Yeah, let's spend the talents," like 15 minutes later, I died. So maybe it was a false sense of like security that went along with that. But it is what it is. I can't wait to clip it. It was quite a fun like experience, like being in stream and dying and people watching and going like, "Oh no," and stuff like that. um, but yeah, it was a couple of really close calls. Basically healed to full from like 5% or less HP twice in that flight. That was that did not end up working out for me because I died. But yeah, yeah. Oh, somebody the guy is talking about women cheating on her husband. Pharisees ask Jesus what they should do with her because under Jewish law she was stoned. Says, without sin, cast the first stone. Yeah, that cool. I'm assuming you're sharing the verse because I was like, hopefully it's genuine, and but yeah, that's good because none are good, no, not one, right? That's what the Bible says. And sometimes people think that they are like good people, but like really the truth is like we are all sinners, all have fallen short of the glory of God, right? Uh, and God's about forgiveness. I mean, it makes me. Oh, you know what? It reminds me of something I just saw today. It's a nice, neat little clip from Ray Comfort, and I think it kind of goes along the lines with this, the same vein of what you had shared. So let's see. I think it was his a short. No, it was on Living Waters, but same guy. I was cuddling with my dog, and this came on, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let's watch it." Oh gee, I can't find it. He was like on a college campus and it was spring break or something, and he was like, "Oh, here it is."
We came
Yeah.
around to the local college, but
Yeah, okay. So I don't know how to make this full screen. I guess that's full screen. It's not like fully full screen, but that's what it is. Okay, so he came around to the local college, but it's spring break, so no one's here. So he's going to talk about absolute proof of the resurrection, which I think is kind of neat. So let's hear it.
it's spring break. Nobody's here, so I thought I'd talk for a few moments about evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. How do we know that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, firstly, forgive me for wearing my sunglasses, but it's very bright. How do we know? Well, there were 500 witnesses. But what say someone says, I don't believe the Bible, then that argument crumbles. No, there's something much more powerful. The skeptics of the day of Christ, the Sadducees and Pharisees, came to Jesus and said, give us a sign. We want a miracle, a sign that you've come from God. Jesus said, no sign will be given to this evil and adulterous generation but the sign of Jonah. As Jonah was in the belly of that beast for 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth. Obviously, Jonah was a type of the gospel, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. That's the evidence. What does that mean? Well, the gospel's the power of God to salvation. It transforms a sin-loving sinner. He becomes born again. Christ, the resurrected Savior, the one who rose from the dead 2,000 years later, will come into the heart of a sin-loving sinner and transform him, take him out of darkness into the glorious light, take him out of death into life, and makes him a brand new creature in Christ so that he loves righteousness. In the Old Testament, God promised he would write his law upon our hearts and cause us to walk in his statutes. So how do I know that Jesus rose from the dead? Because he, Jesus, through the power of the Holy Spirit, transformed the sin-loving sinner and gave me everlasting life as a free gift. I didn't think about God for 10 seconds in 22 years of my non-Christian life. There's hardly one moment in the last 50 years I haven't thought about the Lord. Why? Because God made me a new creature in Christ. That's how I know. This is our high-quality...
Cool. And he's going to talk about like a witnessing tract. It's like a coin, basically. But yeah. Yeah, part of me wants to watch more Ray Comfort stuff now and take a break from like this like America has a new plane. Because this is definitely more valuable and eternal, and that actually matters. Do they have like a news thing? Sometimes they do little news things. Because this is nightly news. Oh, we watched this one last night, right? The rescued astronaut like talking to people about God. This was very topical and newsworthy.
This is the aircraft carrier shelter you seized, previously owned by a small factory.
That is totally an AI voice. Oh, how annoying. I don't want to play any new video games for like the rest of my life. They're all going to be they're going to have like weird AI uncanny voices compiled into it, and like half the things are probably going to be designed with AI and then polished by a human maybe, but like I don't want to play video games that are AI generated. It's just so it feels so wrong, and there's always something that feels slightly off by them, you know what I mean? It's worrisome.
Many of the people that are watching, listening right now, I'm sure they would love to be here. Many of the people that are watching, listening right now, I'm sure they would love to be here. And for whatever reason, the Lord gave me this desire in my heart, and here I am. And I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, yet he allowed it to happen. And I just pray that he can be glorified in some fashion through it all.
In a couple of days, Wilmore and Williams will begin their flight home after a space saga that has lasted more than 9 months.
All hooks open.
Freedom is free of its moorings. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore begin their belated trip home.
Separation confirmed.
Have a great journey home. Godspeed.
So an exchange of poignant words between the Dragon commander Nick Hague and Don Pettit, offering their best wishes and Godspeed for a safe return to Earth on Tuesday afternoon. It'll be a 7-minute, 29-second braking maneuver to enable Dragon to slip out of orbit. Its velocity slowed by 53.2 meters per second, enabling it to begin its high-speed entry back through Earth's atmosphere and a parachute-assisted splashdown off the Gulf of America at 4:57 p.m. Central, 5:50.
Okay, I gotta say, I don't know if I'm gonna get used to calling it the Gulf of America, but we'll hear the rest of this little thing. It's gonna take a break into like some of the like news reporting of this event, but then it's going to and then you'll hear the astronaut speak a little more at the end. So if you're interested, please, stick around. You'll hear this, and we can talk about it and stuff like that as well. But it's going to take a break, and Ray Comfort's going to talk to some like people in this city called Huntington Beach in California, and they're going to be talking about their uh, I guess life really, as he talks to them about where they're at, morally speaking and stuff like that. If you've never seen one of Ray Comfort's videos before, they're pretty interesting and powerful, and I'm always curious to see how people react to the truth of the gospel and stuff like that. So well, let's take it away. But yeah, thanks for being here and checking it out. I'm not sure if Cole, if you are like just checking me out because you saw the video and you were curious, or if you found out about me because we were I was like maybe advertising the channel in WoW Hardcore, or if you're in the guild. But if you are on Doomhowl, please send me a whisper and I can get you a guild invite and stuff like that. But yeah, let's see the rest of the video.
57 p.m. Eastern Time.
There is something super exciting about rescuing stranded astronauts from space. But this rescue mission is nothing compared to the one that took place 2,000 years ago.
That eternal hope, like I said, trumps everything. Absolutely everything.
Humanity was helpless and hopeless in the face of certain death. But God promised to rescue us. Listen to what Jesus, the one the Bible calls the Savior, said about his rescue mission. For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. He didn't go up into space, he came down as a man, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. Make sure you watch this video until the end, when you'll hear Butch Wilmore not only talk about the foolishness of evolution, but also preach the everlasting gospel.
I'm just trying to find where God's hand is, and this was very, very eye-opening, and I needed it so much.
Have you ever heard the Bible verse, the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which is lost?
I actually haven't.
Do you think you're lost?
Yes.
You believe in God?
No, I believe there is some higher power, which I don't know what it is, but I think there is something.
Do you ever read the Bible?
No.
Did you know in the Old Testament God promised he would destroy death? And in the New Testament we're told how he did it. Did you know that?
No, I don't know a lot about the Bible.
Have you ever heard the Bible verse, the wages of sin is death?
Maybe in German, but not in English, no.
Yeah, it's very famous. It's saying that God is paying you in death for your sins. Like a judge who looks at a criminal who thinks lightly of murder. He's committed murder, but he thinks he's a good person. The judge says, I'm going to show you how serious your crime is. I'm giving you the death sentence. This is your wages. This is what you've earned. And George, sin is so serious to a holy God, he's given you the death sentence. You're on death row. You're in a holding cell. It's got a nice blue roof, good air conditioning, but this life is a holding cell. And your death will be evidence to you that God is deadly serious about sin. So here's a question. Do you think God is justified in giving you the death sentence?
Yes, he's justified.
So you've done things that are morally wrong?
I don't know, maybe.
Well, let's look at the 10 Commandments to see if you're a good person. How many lies do you think you've told in your life?
Tons.
Ever stolen something, even if it's small?
Yes.
So you're a lying thief?
Yes.
You still think you're a good person?
I guess not.
No. The 10 Commandments are like a mirror. They just reflect what we are in truth. Have you ever used God's name in vain?
Yes.
Would you ever use your mum's name as a cuss word?
No.
No, because you respect her.
Of course.
You don't respect the God that gave you a mother. You've taken his holy name and used it as a cuss word. Very serious. Jesus said if you look at a woman and lust for her, you commit adultery with her in your heart. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust?
No.
When did you last look at pornography?
Once with a friend like 2 years ago. But
Yeah, that's called lust. You commit adultery in your heart when you do that. So George, here's the summation of your court case on Judgment Day. You've told me you're a lying thief, a blasphemer, and an adulterer at heart. So if God judges you by the 10 Commandments on Judgment Day, you're going to be innocent or guilty?
Guilty.
Heaven or hell?
Hell.
Now, does that concern you?
No.
George, it horrifies me. I've just met you, but I love you. I don't want you to go to hell. That breaks my heart. What did God do for guilty sinners so we wouldn't have to go to hell?
He gave up his son.
On the cross. Now, most people know that, but they don't know this. And Isabella, if you can get a grip of this, it's going to change everything for you, so don't let anything distract you, okay? The 10 Commandments are called the moral law. You and I broke the law. Jesus paid the fine. That's what happened on that cross. That's why he said, it is finished. He was saying paid in full. If you're in court and you've got speeding fines and you plead guilty, a judge will let you go if someone pays those fines. He'll say, George, you're guilty, but you can go because someone paid your fine. And it's legal. Well, God can legally take death off you because of what Jesus did on the cross and paying our fine, rising from the dead. And if you'll simply repent of your sins, and you'll never do that while you think you're a good person, it'll be very superficial. But if you repent of your sins and trust in Jesus, God promises he'll grant you everlasting life as a free gift, not because you're good, but because he's good and kind and rich in mercy. You're going to think about what we talked about?
I have a 12-hour flight before me in like 6 hours, so I will definitely think about it on the flight. Because
That is so good to hear. I'm going to give you a Gospel of John, which is the 4th book of the New Testament. And can I give you a book I've written called Scientific Facts in the Bible? You can read it on the way home on the plane.
Yes, it's really cool. Thank you.
Great. Great to talk to you, George. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
If you're going to jump out of a plane 10,000 feet, why would you put on a parachute?
So you don't hit the ground.
Yeah, so you don't die. And your motivation is fear. And that fear is your friend, not your enemy, because it's making you put on a parachute. And because I care about you, I've tried to put the fear of God in you today, hoping you'll see that fear as your friend, not your enemy, because it'll make you serious with the God that gave you life. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
He never sinned. He was worthy to go to the cross and die and incur the wrath of God for my sin. Only Christ can pay the price for sin, any sin. And you believe that, you embrace that, he imputes, justifies you, imputes his righteousness into you, takes your sins away. And that's the only way your sins can be separated, because God, because of his character, must punish sin. He must. His character demands it, and he will. And sin cannot be atoned for except through the blood of Christ, except through the death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That is the gospel.
When are you going to repent and trust in Jesus rather than in your own goodness?
Right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
Are you sorry for your sins?
I am so sorry, yes.
Can I pray with you?
Please, yeah.
Father, I pray for Isabella. Thank you for her open and honest heart. I pray today she'll catch a glimpse of her own sinfulness in the sight of a holy God and tremble in fear, but at the same time catch a glimpse of your incredible love that you extended towards her, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And this day may she truly be born again, pass from death to life with a love of righteousness, trusting alone in your mercy and in your amazing grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Do you have a Bible at home?
Yes, sir.
Can I give you a book I've written called Scientific Facts in the Bible?
Sure.
You appreciate it today?
Absolutely. Like, I needed it for sure. I'm just trying to find where God's hand is, and this was very, very eye-opening, and I needed it so much. So.
Well, the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which is lost. So we trust God's done an eternal work in your heart today. It's been great to meet you, Isabella.
You too. Thank you so much. This is so awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
What declares the grandeur of God and just gives you a
thanks to the generosity of our publishers, we were able to get a massive print of scientific facts in the Bible, which means you can get them for as low as 99 cents per copy if you order them in bulk. See livingwaters.com for details. This is our high-quality, genuine wood treasure chest, and it's packed with 300 metallic, these are not plastic, 10 Commandment coins, with the 10 Commandments on one side and the Gospel on the other side. The wooden treasure chest is available at livingwaters.com. Sexual immorality has devastated too many men, damaged too many families, and marred the Gospel's testimony too many times.
Yep, that's a problem. And also, the just in case you were wondering, the coins, it's like a witnessing tool, so you can give it to somebody, and then they can read the Ten Commandments, for example, and you can also use that as a talking point, just kind of how he did, taking people through the Ten Commandments and asking them, like, have you done any of this stuff? And it's kind of neat, like it's something that they can keep. Anyway, hopefully I make this and don't die. Oh my gosh, I was scared.
Now is the time to prepare yourself to fight, win the war on purity, and get our latest book, Fight Like a Man. Living Waters exists as a non-profit ministry to help you grow in your faith. Here are 3 things to help you do just that. The Living Waters podcast.
In case I hearth, I need to get this flight path because I am not going to pay to get teleported here again.
Evidence Study Bible, everything you've ever wanted to know about the Christian faith, and the starter kit, 4 of our most popular gospel tracks. These and much more are available at livingwaters.com. If you've not watched our video, Christian Stumps Jehovah's Witness, with one question, I think you'll enjoy it. It's had well over 1 million views, and you can watch it right now by clicking on the top video.
Well, I have those clicks turned off. That does sound interesting, though. Maybe we'll find it and watch it later. But yeah, we saw this on stream yesterday. We talked about it, and can you whisper me so I can add as a friend in WoW? Oh, he probably logged. Okay, well maybe he'll be able to talk to me later. It's cool always meeting other people that are believers. Anyway, and it is interesting, like the amount of complexity within life and what that suggests. Okay, so hopefully I don't die on this character because I kind of got excited and bought some big bags. And I almost bought a guild tabard, but then I was like, what if I die? That's another gold down the tubes. So maybe we'll get our pet first before we do something like that. Kahboomzie! But we gotta get this flight path, otherwise we could make a big mistake. Okay.
They're a group of thugs. They come from Venezuela. They come from the prisons of Venezuela.
The way he says Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. Aragua. It's so ridiculous. Ah!
They're very, very dangerous people, but they didn't look so dangerous when the guards took care of the situation from El Salvador. And I want to thank the president. He's a friend of mine. He's done a great job. But I just can't imagine that the Democrats are taking this issue where they want to have them back. So now they have men playing in women's sports. They have transgender for everyone. They have open borders. They have all of their crazy policies that are, I think, 95-5, not 90-10, okay? And their new policy is, let's bring Tren de Aragua back into our country. Let's bring the...
He didn't say it as extreme this time. Okay, well, that's a little disappointing.
These are the worst gang members there are. They looked amazingly frail, though, by the way they were handled. It's very amazing. They weren't, when they were in Colorado cutting the fingers off a man because he made a phone call to the police, they seemed a lot tougher then than they did when they were having their head shaved and they were in shackles. They're tough people. They're bad people. We don't want them in our country. We can't let a judge say that he wants him. He didn't run for president. He didn't get much more than 80 million votes. and we just can't let that happen. It'd be so bad for our country. I won on the basis of getting criminals out of our country that were let in. It was called unforced error. They were let in by Biden, incompetently let in, and let in by the millions, actually. 21 million people, I believe it's 21 million. And that's not even including the gotaways, but these are rough people. We want them out of our country. And I won the election based at least partly on that, and that's a big part, yeah?
And I don't know if you saw this. Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, I think I could kick most of their ass.
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser, yeah.
Okay, hold up. I'm gonna die. I need to get to the starting zone somehow. Okay. All right, so here we go. This guy just was whispering me about getting in a guild invite, so I'm trying to get him in.
He lost an election. He played a part. You know, usually a vice president doesn't play a part, they say.
I need speed
think Tim played
potion,
a part. I think he
if I
was
can
so
use it.
bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe hurt them both. They didn't have a great group, but I would probably put him at the bottom of the group.
Have you heard that Biden wants to get back involved for Democratic politicians, fundraising and campaigning against your policies? What do you think of that?
I hope so.
Mr. President, there are several families. Mr. President, there are families from some of the people. I'm with La Nación newspaper from Argentina. There are families from some of the people that were on those flights to El Salvador that claim that they're not criminals, they're not members of Tren de Aragua, of MSF.
Okay, yeah, so the people that get arrested, these bad people that actually have Tren de Aragua tattoos, are saying, I'm not in Tren de Aragua. Okay. Yeah, I totally believe criminals. I totally believe that, right? I don't know.
13. What can you tell them, and what guarantees can you give them that everyone in those planes were actual criminals, terrorists, as you said?
Well, I was told that they went through a very strong vetting process, and that that will also be continuing in El Salvador. And if there's anything like that, we would certainly want to find out. But these were a bad group. This was a bad group, and they were in bad areas, and they were with a lot of other people that were absolutely killers, murderers, and people that were really bad with the worst records you've ever seen. And but we will continue that process, absolutely. We don't want to make that kind of a mistake.
Mr. President, is the U.S. planning to give up the position of NATO's Supreme Allied Commander, and if so, why?
NATO is something that I saved. NATO was gone until I came along. In fact, the previous Secretary General, very good man, both of them are good. The current man is fantastic. But both of them have said, if it wasn't for Trump, you wouldn't even have a NATO, because we were paying the cost of almost all of the countries. And now they're paying. I said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to continue. You hurt us on trade. You do bad things on trade. And then on top of it, we're supposed to pay for your military. And because of what I did, hundreds of billions of dollars flowed into NATO by countries that just weren't paying. They were delinquent. They weren't paying their bills. So NATO is solid. They're strong. But they have to treat us fairly.
Are we going to give up the...
Because look, without us, NATO is not the same. And I can tell you, I've been having very good discussions, as you know, with President Zelensky and with President Putin, and President Putin will tell you that without the United States, he wouldn't be worried. But he is worried when the United States is involved. And I have to tell you, I've dealt very well with both gentlemen, and we have, I think we have the confines of a deal. I hope we have the confines of a deal. I'm doing it for two reasons. Number one, and by far most importantly, thousands of young people, and they're not American people, they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, are being killed every week, thousands a week. And also the United States has paid, because of Biden, $350 billion on a war that should have never happened. If we had a competent president in this sitting right here, that war would have never happened. It would have absolutely never happened with me. And it didn't happen. For 4 years it didn't happen.
Mr. President, do you think you have the authority, the power to round up people, deport them, and then you're under no obligation to a court to show the evidence against them?
Well, that's what the law says, and that's what our country needs, because we were, unfortunately, they allowed...
Yeah, they have this loophole in the law. He is right about that. I mean, you might not like that that's the due process for mass illegal immigrants that are also criminals, but they found this loophole in the law. It actually is there. Now, if you don't think that we should have that loophole, well, yeah, let's get rid of it. But to be honest, being somebody in the middle ground here, I don't want bad people to be in this country. And if they are continuing to do this whole like let's investigate, because honestly, the El Salvadorian president is not going to want, because he's actually got amazing approval ratings. It's like 96% approval ratings, the El Salvadorian president. It's insane. He's not going to want to keep people in his prisons that aren't supposed to be there. So yeah, he's continuing this vetting process and making sure that people who are there are supposed to be there. Like, this is a no-brainer. Of course he's going to care about this. He wants to keep his approval rating. If word gets out in his country that he's aiding the U.S. to keep people in prison that shouldn't be there, that's really bad for him, right? No, he's going to be definitely looking into this as well. So yeah, it is what it is.
Millions of people to come into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. So you would ask, did he have the authority to allow millions of people? Did Biden have the authority to do something that's unthinkable? Have open borders where millions of people poured into our country, totally unvetted and totally unchecked, just as you would say. And many of those people were criminals. Many of them were from jails and prisons and mental institutions and gang members and drug dealers and very dangerous people. Many were murderers. We have 11,088 that we know of murderers they murdered. Of that number, at least half killed more than one person. They're in our country. They're in a location near you. Biden allowed that to happen to our country.
They're in a location near you? Okay. It's random little tidbits that he throws in there. It's so ridiculous sometimes. But yeah, and here he is complaining about Biden again. Okay.
And his people that really ran the country. And the person that operated the auto pen, I think we ought to find out who that was, because I guess that was the real president. So when you ask me if we have the authority, did Biden have the authority to allow millions of people to come into our country? Many of these people, hardened criminals at the top of the line who have caused tremendous damage in our country. You see them in New York City fighting with our police. I mean, literally having fist fights in the street with our police. These are tough, hard criminals. Many of them came out of jails, and not just South America, from all over the world. They came out from Africa, from the Congo. They came out from Asia, not just South America, but many from South America. These are hard, tough criminals, and we have to get them out. And a judge sitting behind a bench someplace got a nice appointment. You can't take that away from the people that are responsible. Now, in this case, Marco Rubio has a lot of big decisions to make, and he's a fantastic person, a great man. I think he'll be our best. I think he has a chance to be our best Secretary of State. He's been doing incredibly. He works so hard. He's gone to so many different countries already, and he's got the authority to get bad people out of our country. And you can't stop that with a judge sitting behind a bench that has no idea what goes on, who happens to be a radical lunatic.
Do you think the judiciary is
you guys today are denying, you guys are
Dude, he pissed them off, it sounds like. But it's crazy that they're all talking over each other. Usually they're more cordial to each other in the Oval Office or whatever. When he does these like impromptu things, is the news getting a little greedy about their privilege to be here and stuff like that?
denying this New York Times report that Elon Musk was going to be shown a 20 to 30 page presentation about a theoretical war plan against China. Why not just show it to Elon?
Because I don't want to show it to anybody. You know, you're talking about a potential war with China. Now, I deal with these people all the time, and I'm dealing with Pete, I'm dealing with these gentlemen on numerous different airplane purchases, and I think they're all going to be great. But I don't want other people seeing, anybody seeing potential war with China. We don't want to have a potential war with China, but I can tell you if we did, we're very well equipped to handle it. But I don't want to show that to anybody, but certainly you wouldn't show it to a businessman who is helping us so much. He's a great patriot. He's paying a big price for helping us cut costs, and he's doing a great job. He's finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. But I certainly wouldn't want, you know, Elon has businesses in China, and he would be susceptible perhaps to that. But it was such a fake story. The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. And anybody read that story, people laughed at that story. Who would do such a thing? And the first thing I did is I called Susie and I called Pete. I said, is there any truth to that? And they said, it's ridiculous. No, he's over there to talk about cost. You might want to address that, Pete. But Elon was over there today to address cost. Doge, thing called Doge, which you've heard about. Pete?
That's exactly right, Mr. President. You pointed out it was a fake story. We pointed out it was meant to sort of undermine whatever relationship the Pentagon has with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a patriot. Elon Musk is an innovator. Elon Musk provides a lot of capabilities our government and our military rely on, and I'm grateful for that. We welcomed him today to the Pentagon to talk about Doge, to talk about efficiencies, to talk about innovations. It was a great informal conversation. The rest of that reporting was fake. There was no war plans, there was no Chinese war plans, there was no secret plans. That's not what we were doing at the Pentagon.
I might add that I think Elon, if they ever wanted to do that, I think Elon wouldn't do it. I think he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't want to put himself in that position. But if you read what's out of the New York Times, it's such a dishonest newspaper. It's such garbage. It's, you know, it used to be called all the news that's fit to print. Well, it's all the news that's not fit to print. They have fake sources, or they don't have sources. I think they make most of it up. But this was a made-up story by the New York Times. I call it the failing. It's a failing newspaper. It's failing. And they shouldn't do that. They really are the enemy of the people.
And
we do need honest journalism in this. You know, we've made such big strides over the last 2 months, but we just need honest journalism, and we don't have it. When you have a CNN, you have to watch these people every once in a while just to see where they're coming from, and it's so dishonest. MSNBC is, I think, probably worse, and they're both doing horribly in the ratings. I think they're going to be turned off. I don't think they're not doing any ratings. You're doing well on the ratings.
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, just quickly on, I understand that your trade rep is meeting their Chinese counterpart next week.
Yes.
Is there anything that they can do to stop April 2nd or to roll back the tariffs that you put on China already?
Well, we could talk, but basically, I call April 2nd. I would have made it April 1st, but I didn't want to be April Fool's Day because then nobody would believe what I said.
Stop saying this.
April 2nd is going to be Liberation Day for America. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. We've been ripped off on trade. We've been ripped off on military. We protect people, and they don't do anything for us. It's just so unfair for years and years. And now some of that money is going to be coming back to us in the form of tariffs. I mean, tens of billions. It's going to be numbers like nobody's ever seen.
Like nobody's ever seen.
NVIDIA announced today, you saw that? Hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. The biggest chip maker in the world announced hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. Hundreds of billions, not millions, but billions. They're all coming here. Apple just announced $500 billion worth. They're going to build plants here. You know, they built their plants in China. They're going to build them here. And they're starting immediately. We have We have investment, the likes of which this country has never seen, already
The likes
announced.
of which,
And they all want to have news.
the likes of which nobody has ever seen. I I get tired of repetitive discourse. That's what my exhaustion. That's where my exhaustion is coming from. Tired of the news, like media, and also even people like Trump, like saying the same thing over and over and over again. It's getting a little tiresome. Why report on the same thing again? Because people didn't watch it the first time, probably. But I don't know. The rhetoric of saying the likes of which nobody has ever seen, though, is not even news. It's just repetitive language. Big criticism for me. But that's just like
Conferences. I don't have enough time.
It's just English major pet peeve or whatever, But
Time to have that many news conferences, but I would say so far at least $4 trillion. $4 trillion is coming in. Car companies, very importantly, a lot of the car companies that were going to build in Mexico or Canada are now building here, because I don't want cars from Canada. I don't want cars from Mexico. They want to do it, it's fine, but
they don't even name all of the folk they deported, and he deported a Columbia student with a green card who merely led a protest against but that's a different thing, right? The kid that led that thing. There's a little more to it, because I was really critical of that when I first heard about it. Like one of my first streams, I was like, "Wait, what is going on with this guy?" I mean, there's tons of people that have led protests, but I think it was like they also. I mean, maybe they're just making a spectacle of this guy, which I mean that happens all the time, like where they make an example of somebody. But But yeah, they the other thing was that the kid, the college student, was saying things like that he supports and wants the death of the entire like Western civilization or something like that. And I mean, that raised some eyebrows. So that was like another thing that they said about it. But yeah, it's clearly somebody that they're making an example of. I'm wondering if they're going to keep doing this, or if they were just making an example of somebody specifically. But yeah, there's tons of protests, right? But we're not deporting like the people that aren't on green cards, right? They're citizens. But if you're on a green card, I mean, I don't really know the law. I don't know if they actually, because I'm just feel like your average Walmart American, right? I don't know if they actually have to be held to a higher standard, but I've heard that. So it's interesting. And you also brought up the violation of the court order not to deport the people to Venezuela. But they were in international waters when that court order came out, right? This has been very heavily reported on. Like the timing was just like, well, we're already in international waters, dude. What are you saying? So we've talked about that in earlier streams, and also we saw more information regarding this today on this stream earlier. But yeah, I'm responding to somebody named Rotten Ryan, but I don't see him in here anymore. He's not chatting anymore. Oh well.
I want the car companies to build here, not, they were building in Mexico 3 plants, big plants, really big plants, and they were going to sell the cars right across the border. We wouldn't have the jobs, we wouldn't have the profits, we wouldn't get the taxes, we get nothing. There's unemployment and empty factories. Those days are over. So now those 3 places are going to build here, but many more than that. We have a big one. Honda is building, just announced a really big plant in Indiana, great state, smart place to build. And we have many car companies coming here. The steel mills are going to be booming, And many other things come with that. But we need that for defense. There are certain things you have to have. You have to have steel. We would have had, if I didn't do in my first term tariffs to stop the onslaught because they were dumping steel in order to destroy our steel plants. If I didn't do 50% and even 100% in certain cases tariffs on steel, you wouldn't have a steel plant in the United States. And Biden was unable to get rid of those tariffs because they threw off so much money that his numbers, which didn't work anyway because his numbers were terrible, what he did, the way he spent money was so horrible, and what he allowed to happen to energy. That's the other thing. Energy is going to be like it's never been before. Mr. Vice President is here. If you have any, do you have anything to say while you're here?
No, sir. I'm
good Vice President.
I'm just here to watch the show, sir.
Okay.
I think airplanes are pretty cool, so I wanted to check this out.
Airplane's cool. It is cool.
Is there anything that China can do to take off the trade war at this point, though?
Well, I'll be speaking to President Xi. I have a great relationship with him. We're going to have a very good relationship. But we have a $1 trillion deficit because of Biden with President Xi. More than that. I mean, I've heard $1.2 trillion. We have a deficit. And I've explained that to President Xi. We also have a problem where he's allowing fentanyl to be sent into Mexico and then cross the border and, killing. I think the number is much higher than the 125, 115 that I think it's closer to 300,000 people a year. And so that's a problem. But they have a tremendous surplus against the United States, and we don't want that.
Mr. President, why do you want to control Ukraine's power plant?
A number of industries have come to you asking for exemptions on tariffs. Is that something that is under consideration by you?
Well, people are coming to me and talking about tariffs, and a lot of people are asking me if they could have exceptions. And once you do that for one, you have to do that for all. So, I mean, generally, I did something interestingly during 2 weeks ago. I gave the American car companies a break because it would have been unfair if I didn't. And everybody said, oh, he changed his mind on tariffs. I didn't change my mind. I helped our, sort of big three, big four. I helped some of the American companies. And instead of taking it properly, they said, oh, he changed it. I don't change, but the word flexibility is an important word. Sometimes there's flexibility, so there'll be flexibility. But basically, it's reciprocal. So that if China's charging us 50% or 30% or 20%, and I don't mean China, I mean anybody, any country, Canada. Nobody knows that Canada's charging our dairy farmers. They have 270% tariffs. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. They have up to 400%. They have a couple of tariffs at 400%. Nobody knows that.
That sounds like a little insane. Because is this new information that he just got? Because he's been talking about like 200% tariffs and stuff like that. Is like, whoa, this is this big spectacle. And now he's coming up, and they've criticized Canada for a little bit on the tariffs. And now all of a sudden he's coming up with 400%? Like, why didn't they mention this earlier? And why won't they tell us what it is? That makes me a little skeptical. Okay.
Nobody talks about that. And remember, with Canada, we don't need their cars, we don't need their lumber, we don't need their energy, we don't need anything from Canada, and yet it costs us $200 billion a year in subsidy to keep Canada afloat.
Well, why are we even like doing trade with them then if we don't need to do trade with them? I don't understand this. Like, if you're in chat or you're watching and later or commenting or whatever, please tell me. I'd like to know.
So when I say they should be a state, I mean that. I really mean that. Because we can't be expected to carry a country that is right next to us on our border. It would be a great state. It would be a cherished state. The taxes for Canadian citizens.
But you don't want Canada to be a state because then Canada votes. And everything Canada votes for is bad. It just is. Like, they're too nice, and they don't realize that they're being sheeple, just believing everything that the government says. That's really the case of Canada right now, and it has been for quite some time. I don't trust Canadian voters, but maybe it's because like of their prime minister like system and stuff like that, and maybe it's because it's a lower quality democratic system that they're in this problem. But like they've got these problems, and I'm like, well, honestly, isn't their voting doesn't that have something to do with it? So it concerns me. I was kind of curious about that the other day, and I'm not really sure if I really believe this, right? What I'm saying right now, I'm not sure if I really believe it, but it's just a thought that I've entertained. I like to question everything, and that's one thing that I question. Like, could like hypothetically, right? Like if we take China into America, I'm not China, wouldn't that be a thing? But if we take Canada into America, can we trust their voters to like? Are they like going to vote properly? Or are they just going to vote blindly for the party that they think they need to follow? Because people do that in America too, but I feel like it's not as bad because we had a lot of people uh, throughout history, like across, and even recently, right, across the lines of the political spectrum to vote for what they thought was right. Or what they thought would help their country, which is why we had all of these numbers actually showing that there was crossover, where Democrats were like voting for Trump basically, who are traditionally Democrats. Uh, at least that's as far as I understand it. But this was like kind of happening, right? So anyway, it's curious. It's just like a thought that I haven't heard anybody like really bring up. I talked about it the other day with somebody who was Canadian, and he was like, "I'm a conservative Canadian." And he's like really angry about like the stuff that's happening there, and he likes like the Pierre Polivier guy, who honestly he seems like a pretty down to earth guy. I think he's pretty great. But yeah,
would go down in less than half. They don't spend money on military because they think we're going to protect them. There are many things that they do, like icebreakers. They want us to provide icebreakers for them. Oh, that's wonderful. So the Canada, they're very tough traders too. I want to just tell you, all the people, they're tough traders. They trade very tough. And you know, the expression I use is, some people don't have the cards. I used that expression about a week and a half ago, right? Somebody was negotiating who didn't have the cards, who's now, I think, saying that he wants to do it, and I think we're going to have a big deal on that very special something. We got to make a deal on that. But Canada has been a very nasty negotiator against the United States, took advantage of the United States for a long time. But nobody knows that they were getting 270% tariffs on dairy products.
dude, they're just going nuts. Yeah, they used to be more respectful because they were like, "Oh wow, I can't believe we're being allowed in here to the Oval Office to ask these questions." And they even said towards the early inception of Trump into his presidency, they even said like that Biden never did this and stuff like that, and they were really thankful to be there. But they're like this crazy like screaming at him that like news sources tend to do sometimes. Like it's kind of insane that they're back to their old ways, right? They're like abusing this privilege, I would say, of being here. You know.
I don't think I've heard you say this in all of the talk about Canada becoming the 51st state. Are you concerned that if they became the 51st state, they would be a very, very blue state? Very, very big and very, very blue.
No, there might be, but it would, you know, you have that artificial line that goes, that straight artificial, that looked like it was drawn by a ruler. Somebody with a, I don't mean a ruler like a king, I mean like a ruler, this way. And,
we get it. We get it.
Just an artificial line that was drawn in the sand
And,
or in the ice.
And
you know, can I tell Peter, just you add that to this country, what a beautiful landmass, the most beautiful landmass anywhere in the world, and it was just cut off for whatever reason. It would be great. Now, is it liberal? Maybe, but you know, a conservative until I got involved, because I don't care who wins up there. I frankly probably would do better with a liberal than the conservative, if you want to know the truth. But just a little while ago, before I got involved and totally changed the election, which I don't care about, probably it's to our advantage actually, but the conservative was leading against, I call him Governor Trudeau, the conservative was leading by 35 points. So, you know, so I don't know about that. I think Canada is a place like a lot of other places. If you have a good candidate, the candidate's going to win.
And I don't know if you've seen this, but the two astronauts that you just helped save from space, They didn't get any overtime pay for all that extra time. They got $5 a day per diem. For 286 days, that is $1,430 in extra pay. Is there anything the administration can do to get them, to make them whole?
Well, nobody's ever mentioned this to me. If I have to, I'll pay it out of my own pocket, okay?
That's super cool, actually. You know, because it's clear, it's obvious. Like, that's a unique thought, right? And what he was able to come up with, this guy. I hadn't heard about that, but I'm sure other people have, right? They've been talking about this and stuff like that. But like, yeah, you could tell, like, literally, this is a genuine moment, right? I'm not really a Trump supporter or anything like that, but I'm looking for things that make sense, and you could tell by his countenance, like, dude, Trump, like, literally, and he's done a lot of like very generous things, right? He just doesn't brag about him or talk about it, but he has, right? People have reported on this, you know, on his behalf, like, thank you so much for your support and all this kind of stuff, for like the medicine and cancer treatment and all these kind of things for my mom and whatnot. um and I mean, when you have enough money to like donate to people just because you feel like you want to, because he does have that much money, like, what's the point of bragging? Because it's just something that you do all the time because you have those finances, and if it makes you feel good, like, that's what people with money do, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, here, I'll help you out, you know. Unless they're like extremely like wicked, like, and corrupt and greedy and stuff like that. So it's really neat to see him like hear something brand new that doesn't sound right and go, yeah, I'll pay whatever they need their salaries to be, you know, because it sounds like the right thing to do. That's kind of cool, actually. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that's kind of cool.
I'll get it for you.
Mr. President, I'll follow up on the petition signs.
I like that.
Mr. President,
I'll pay it right out of my, is that all? That's not a lot for what they had to go through. And I want to thank Elon Musk, by the way, because think if we don't have him. You know, there's only so long, even though they're in the capsule up there, that the body starts to deteriorate after 9 or 10 months and gets really bad after 14, 15 months with the bones and the blood and all the things that you've been reporting on very well. And if we don't have Elon, they could be up there a long time. Who else is going to get him? And I just want to thank him. He's going through a lot, what they're doing to him. And these people are going to be caught, and they're going to be caught, and they're going to be prosecuted. And from what they tell me, I see this just by watching your programs and reading the news, but from what they tell me, they could get 20 years in jail, and they'll get it. I'll tell you, there's going to be no leniency, and there'll be no pardons. I can tell you that right.
And you said this morning 20 years in jail, and then maybe you said this morning 20 years in jail, and then maybe they'll go to one of these prisons in El Salvador. Do you think with the way that the judges have been issuing injunctions, it would be easier or harder to send these Tesla domestic terrorists to a jail in El Salvador than these MS-13 or Tren de Aragua guys?
Well, I view these people as terrorists just like others. These are, when I looked at those showrooms burning and those cars, not one or two, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place. These are terrorists. You didn't have that on January 6th, I can tell you. You didn't have anything like that on January 6th, which is sort of amazing because on January...
I mean, that is a really interesting point. But the thing that makes me angry is I'm so sick of January 6th being brought up all the time.
January 6th, the Democrats were talking. Nobody was killed other than a very beautiful young woman, Ashley Babbitt. Nobody was killed. And you look at what's going on now with these terrorists. These are terrorists, and that's an organized event. You know, take a look at their signs. Take a look. They're all made by the same sign company. A nice, expensive job. Now, these are the people that finance it are, in my opinion, in just as big a trouble as the people that are setting the match and setting the fires. So we'll see. It's under very serious investigation by the FBI and by the Justice Department. These people are terrorists.
Mr. President, you mentioned a deal with Ukraine.
Mr. President, what do you say to American military families who are seeing Elon Musk at the Pentagon today, are hearing about Defense Department cuts, and their thoughts are immediately going to the safety of their loved ones who are currently deployed?
Well, we're making our country strong. And when they see a thing like that and they...
Well, I thought they were just, like, the guy just talked about it. Like, this guy over here just talked about it, right? They they're okay with cutting things that don't need to be funded, right? That was that was their decision, right? Maybe not. Maybe I missed something.
Hear that story about Elon and China.
What's
What
his
they
name,
should do
Pete?
is realize that the New York Times is a corrupt institution, because I think they're the ones. They knew that story wasn't true. Nobody believed that story. People that, when I first called, they laughed when they heard the story. Nobody believed it. That the Pentagon was giving him a briefing on what war with China would look like, and he has business. No, they made that up because it's a good story to make up. They're very dishonest people. Look, I have it with the Times, and you'll see more and more of it. To me, it's a very, very dishonest organization. But a story like that is made up. It's total fiction. And I just wanted to make sure. I called up Chief of Staff and I called up Pete, and I said, is there any truth to that? Absolutely not. He's there for Doge, not there for China. And if you ever mention China, I think he'd walk out of the room. He wouldn't take it anyway. So it's just a made-up story. Nobody's taking better care of the military. One of the things that I know that Pete's doing is he's talking about a lot of the civilian staff, and we're going to get them other jobs. You know, we're going to have a lot of jobs in this country, but we don't want to have wasteful jobs. We want to have meaningful jobs. And those were wasteful jobs. Those are jobs that not only military, but jobs where people don't show up. You take a look at Department of Education. I've never seen so many buildings with the names on it. You go past one after another Department of Education, and they're empty. The people don't show up. You know why? Because they have other jobs, because they're playing golf, or they're playing something, they're doing something. And we have a lot of great people, but we have to move that back to the States. We're going to make our country strong, and we're going to get people much better jobs, because we have companies moving into our country, the likes of which we've never seen before. Nothing like this has happened. And it's automatic. They don't want to pay the tariffs. How do you avoid paying the tariffs? You build your plant in the United States, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I see it. So far, I would say $4 trillion. Nobody's ever heard of them. No country's ever heard of numbers like that. $4 trillion, and those are the best ones. The biggest, best chip maker in the world. I'm not a fan of the CHIP Act, where you give billions of dollars away to companies that don't need it, and it won't bring them here. I'm giving nothing away. All they're doing is coming here. They're building because they want to avoid. Remember this on the tariffs, too, because that's going to be, Liberation Day, April 2nd. It's reciprocal. If they charge us, we charge them. So somebody say, well, how much are the tariffs? Very fair. If India, as an example, has been very bad to us on tariffs, they charge 100%, 200%, whatever they charge. Now, Europe just announced they're lowering the tariffs on cars. We charge like a joke, 2.5%. That's what this country charges. Europe just announced that they're reducing their tariffs on cars to 2.5%. It's nice. But they also have non-monetary tariffs.
That's interesting because they didn't want our reciprocal to go up. It's interesting that this tactic is working, because I had believed for the longest time that America was not a world power. That's what the news is telling people. But if Trump is getting his way left, right, and center worldwide, and if we really are actually funding all of these other countries with all this money for US aid or whatever you want to call them, and all these other pork barrel projects and things like that actually do go overseas and abroad. Like recently, I was watching a news program from Australia, and they were like, "Oh, America's not gonna pay for, is not gonna fund I think it was they have a bunch of, was it 10 universities? There's a bunch of universities, and they're like, "Oh, America's not gonna fund our universities anymore." What? I'm so sick of hearing about this. I don't want my tax dollars going to I don't want to pay taxes if I don't have to, right? I want my money from the work that I do, because I don't even make very much because I'm a teacher, right? But Like, I don't want my money going to, like, Australia to pay for them to educate their students at the collegiate level. Why am I paying for Australia to be educated? Like, they can do it themselves. They really can. They don't actually need us. What's really going on is it's about like influencing their education, right? And they'll be like, "Oh, it's soft power." Okay, the liberals recently are saying that that's a good thing. However, traditionally, the conservatives were really into this whole soft power idea. But obviously, the conservatives aren't into like soft power, quote unquote, that has to do with like spreading the quote unquote, as they would say, the woke agenda, right? And that's what's really happening. So, like, these arguments aren't even good and they're disingenuous because they are avoiding the reality of like people's actual perception regarding these situations. And it's just frustrating to me because, I mean, I clearly know like what the history was and what's happened and what different like sides have supported historically and stuff like that. And it's frustrating too because I keep hearing the same arguments used, but they're never working, right? So just stop saying the stupid thing that is frustrating because you think you're on Reddit, but it's is actually like important and you should have like real life conversation with people instead of just like cry baiting um to frustrate people, to say something that sounds inflammatory. It's not helpful and it's disingenuous as well. And it's something that I think needs to stop in our nation. Whatever.
Where they make it impossible for the cars to get in, even without the dollars on them and the dollar signs.
It doesn't get anywhere.
Non-monetary tariff, where they put on controls where no matter what happens, because they don't want cars, they don't want the American car in their market. And yet they send us millions of cars, they send us big agriculture, they don't want our agriculture, they don't want anything from us. European Union's very tough, but now it's fair. So whatever they do to us, we do to them.
Mr. President, you mentioned last month you mentioned
As
Russia continues to attack Ukraine, are you planning to impose any sort of
well,
sanctions?
they're fighting against each other. Yeah, I think we're going to have
Do you
we have
plan
a
to
ceasefire on a lot of areas, and so far that's all held very well. And getting that ceasefire, you know, they had a lot of guns pointing at each other. We had some soldiers, unfortunately, surrounded by other soldiers, and they are going to be, I believe, we're going to pretty soon have a full ceasefire, and then we're going to have a contract. And the contract's being negotiated, the contract in terms of dividing up the lands, et cetera, et cetera. It's being negotiated as we speak.
What do you say to critics who say that your actions towards law firms amount to coercion?
Well, the law firms all want to make deals.
What?
You mean the law firms that we're going after, that went after me for 4 years ruthlessly, violently, illegally? You mean, are those the law firms you're talking about? They're not babies. They're very sophisticated people. Those law firms did bad things, bad things. They went after me for years. Russia hoax. All a hoax. It was a hoax. It was Hunter Biden's laptop. It didn't come out of Russia, by the way. It was came out of his bedroom. It was all a hoax developed by Democrats, Hillary.
Dude, I don't even know what this Hunter Biden laptop thing is. I keep hearing about it. I'm like, yeah, I guess it sounds bad. He had a bad laptop that had info that he probably shouldn't have had on it, maybe? And that's all I know. So strange. This guy was in the guild. He left, and I like just checked and I whispered him. I really liked the guy, but he left. Not sure why, but like whenever I like whisper him, he just logs out. I'm like, hey, are you okay? Did you die? Oh, I guess he didn't because he logged back in. I say hi, and I hope nothing happened that like got him like concerned, offended, sad, confused. Oh well.
I don't think Biden did, because I don't think Biden knows what the hell he's doing, frankly, based on everything I see. I've seen things since being here that are so sad. What he's done to this country, what he and they did to this country, those people that surrounded him, who, by the way, are radical left but smart. He's not smart. He was never smart. But these are radical left, smart people. They totally controlled him. He did whatever they told him to do. And it's a shame. It's so sad to see what happened, what they've done to this country, both not only the inflation you saw, but allowing millions and millions of criminals into our country. That's an inexcusable act. And many other things besides that. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can we talk one more question on Ukraine? Why do you want to control Ukraine's power plants, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This lady is screaming about why do you want to control the Ukraine's power plants? They're not even doing the mineral deal right now. What is she talking about? Okay, so I didn't really want to watch this JD Vance thing. I'm looking at the time. I guess I could kind of squeeze it in. Then it would be like we'll finish the video. It'll be midnight if I don't talk at all. But I saw that when Forbes put this out, not the White House posting, but the Forbes posting of this was saying that he was talking about tariffs and stuff. So I'm wondering if something has changed. Trump just talked about it a bit. So and there was a little new information there that I was not really sure about. So I'm wondering if there is like actual evidence that kind of supports some of these wild claims, but also maybe if there is something else that's more substantial, or I'm sorry, substantiated that could be pointed to. Because this is being delivered to the American Dynamism Summit. I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds like it could be valuable information to at least see this perspective, and then to see so that we're informed and know what people are criticizing at a later date, even. So yeah, it's clearly important to know what's going on. We owe it to our this is why I'm looking into it. Like I feel like we owe it to our families to know like what is going on in the political arena in this day and age. Like so you can be a better leader in your family. And so that you can see the writing on the wall and know if there's something that you need to be concerned about.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance.
Pittsburgh, steel mill worker,
What is this? I'm so sorry that I didn't watch it earlier. Okay, it's just like this goofy country song, man. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing? It's great to be here. Thanks to everybody for having me today, in particular Ben and Mark. And I just got to say hello to Ben and Catherine backstage. But I know apparently Mark has the flu right now. So Mark, wherever you are, I think I had the same flu like a few weeks ago. It sucks, but I'm sure you'll get through it. And it's great to be with you all, and it's great to talk about the importance of American dynamism and what our administration is going to do to support so many of the country's most groundbreaking and compelling companies. I know that you guys are working hard every single day, and I think it's pretty good news, right, that as of a couple of months ago, you have an administration that's working with you and facilitating your hard work instead of making it harder to innovate, which is, I think, what the last administration did. Though, in defense of Joe Biden, he was asleep most of the time. I don't think he totally realized what he was doing, but certainly didn't make it easier. His administration did not for our innovators. Now, as some of you may have seen, and I talked about this with Ben backstage, I spoke at a conference in Paris last month where my message to a group of CEOs and foreign leaders was that we should embrace the future head on. We shouldn't be afraid of artificial intelligence, and that particularly for those of us lucky enough to be
I am. I feel like there is a great wrong that can come from it, so that's why. Okay.
Americans, we shouldn't be fearful of productive new technologies. In fact, we should seek to dominate them, and that's certainly what this administration wants to accomplish. I suspect that most of you in this room are of like mind, and if you're not, I don't know why the hell you're at the American Dynamism Conference, but I received some pushback from people.
I mean, I didn't really think I realized what this dynamism, like a dynamo, like it's okay. Maybe I gotta look up what this word even means.
Who are worried about the disruptive effects of AI. One journalist suggested the speech highlighted the tension between the, quote, techno-optimists and the populist right of President Trump's coalition. And today, I'd like to speak to these tensions as a proud member of both tribes. And let me put it simply. While this is a well-intentioned concern, I think it's based on a faulty premise. This idea that tech-forward people and the populists are somehow inevitably going to come to a loggerheads is wrong. I think the reality is that in any dynamic society, technology is going to advance, of course. And speaking as a Catholic, I think back to Pope John Paul II's opening lines of the encyclical Labora Mixarens, quote, "Through work, man must earn his daily bread and contribute to the continual advance of science and technology, and above all, to elevating unceasingly the cultural and moral level."
Man must work for his daily bread versus the actual scripture that says, "Give us this day our daily bread" to God. I mean, obviously, like, you can't just sit around with your mouth open in life. I mean, you probably could actually with enough faith. But it's just interesting that Catholicism listens to these people that actually misrepresent the Bible left, right, and center. Like, it's just frustrating.
of the society within which he lives, end quote. Now, I quote the Holy Father not only because I'm a fan of his, but also because he rightly understood that in a healthy economy, technology should be something.
It's just weird that they're calling like people holy fathers when there's only you have only one father and it's in heaven, and God even says you shall call no one father but me. Yet the Catholic faith is like giving people this title of father. And the Bible literally says don't do this. Like I've got this weird theory that like it's actually like a cult that's twisting scripture and stuff like that. Like you've got to do all your little like Hail Marys, and you can't pray to God directly, like not necessarily. Like they kind of like teach that you need to talk to a priest to get like your sins forgiven, and they just unnecessarily ignore other parts of the Bible where they focus on like how you have to like, oh well, two or more gathered, there's multiple sin a multitude of sins is like covered or something like that. I think it's something like that. But it's about praying with two or more, and yeah, that's good. It's just good to gather together and to pray with each other. Or oh, two or more gathered, much prayer is answered. That's the verse. um and Yeah, because you got twice as much prayer being given. God is faithful to answer all prayers. Sometimes his answer is no, but God is faithful to answer all prayer, right? And he is faithful even when we are not faithful, right? So it's just strange that they feel like that, oh, you have to confess your sins to a priest to be able to be forgiven, when like you should be able to come to God and get that renewal directly, daily from God. And also with your like just pray to God, right? Like you don't need a priest. You could just literally just pray to God whenever you need to. Anyway, I'm getting tired.
That enhances rather than supplants the value of labor. And I think there's too much fear that AI will simply replace jobs rather than augmenting so many of the things that we do. Now, in the 1970s, if you go back a little ways, many feared that the automated teller machine, what we call the ATM, would replace bank tellers. In reality,
Well, yeah, people have been afraid of technology forever, but like, what good is this odd little like example going to give you? Like, what is this really going to? People were afraid of calculators, right?
the advent of the ATM made bank tellers more productive, and you have more people today working in customer service in the financial sector than you had when the ATM was created. Now they're doing slightly different jobs, of course. Yes, they're doing more interesting tasks also, and importantly, they're making more money than they were in the 1970s. Now, when we innovate, we do sometimes cause labor market disruptions. That happens. But the history of American innovation is that we tend to make people more productive, and then we increase their wages in the process. And I think all of us believe that's a good thing. Now, after all, who would claim that man was made less productive by the invention of the transistor, or the metal lathe, or the steam engine? Real innovation makes us more productive, but it also, I think, dignifies our workers. It boosts our standard of living. It strengthens our workforce and the relative value of its labor. And as Americans, all of us should be particularly proud of our extraordinary heritage. I think it is American heritage of inventing things, and of our nation's status to this day as the world's foremost driver of research and development. But all of this, the role that technology plays in a labor market, and whether we greet innovative breakthroughs with excitement or with trepidation, depends on the purpose of our economic system in the first place. And I think this is where the populists have an important point. It should be no surprise that when we send so much of our industrial base to other countries, we stop making interesting new things right here at home. Look, for example, at shipbuilding. Now, if you go back to World War II, America constructed thousands of so-called Liberty ships to carry troops, cargo, and other things, building them at a pace of 3 ships every 2 days. 3 ships every 2 days. Now, we build about 5 commercial ships across an entire year in the United States of America. And as a result, the United States today accounts for 0.1%.
Well, we don't need that many ships, right? Not right now, right? So like there's no point to it. I don't really see his point. Just like I don't see his point about like, and now they're making more money working at different jobs in the bank teller, but he didn't talk about how that is like a conversion rate from then to now of more money, right? It's just a little sad when like information is presented and it's not presented clear enough to where people have room to question what it is that you're saying. And if people can easily like raise an eyebrow at what you're saying, you probably shouldn't be saying it in the first place, because why alienate an educated audience that knows when and what to question based off of flimsy argumentation? Because that's literally what's happening right now with me. This is an unnecessary frustration for an audience member of a politician that is the vice president of all people. It's just straight up frustrating, right? What the heck? Okay, well, which one has the most damage? Okay, so 350, it's very slow. 2.6, 2.7, a little faster. I want the slowest one just because I want to see how that feels, but I won't. I'll get the one that's slightly more damage. Okay. This might be fun, leveling up different weapons. I should probably go do that before I get out of here. I can't equip this. I need a hunter trainer, but only once I hit level 8. Okay, let's go try this out. The weapons, the 200 weapons look very small on these trolls, man. It's a little disappointing. This is why I wanted to be a, what do you call it? Female Tawan? Female Tawan? Da, 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 da. Oh, I have one more quest here, so that'll probably help me ding.
One-tenth of 1% of global shipbuilding. China, on the other hand, now makes more commercial ships than the rest of the world combined. In fact, one of Beijing's state-owned firms built more commercial ships just last year than all of America has produced since the end of World War II. So, while we remain the leader in technology and innovation, I think there are troubling signs on the horizon. And I raise all this to ask, does this sound like a regime, I'm speaking of China, that will pass up on the opportunity to use AI or any other technology to advance their own interests and further undermine the interests of their rivals? I think the answer is obvious, and that's why America, we've got to be tech forward. Yes, there are concerns, yes, there are risks, but we have to be leaning into the AI future with optimism.
Yeah, we need AI that can destroy other AI that's bad AI.
And hope, because I think real technological innovation is going to make our country stronger. So deindustrialization poses risks both to our national security and our workforce. It's important because it affects both. And the net result is dispossession for many in this country of any part of the productive process. And when our factories disappear and the jobs in those factories go overseas, American workers are faced not only with financial insecurity, they're also faced with a profound loss of personal and communal identity. And so to come full circle on this tension, alleged tension between the populace and the techno-optimists, I can understand a reaction of skepticism when we talk about the revolutionary potential of new invention.
I have to say, just as an English major, it's interesting to hear political discourse where they use words like techno-optimism to describe something. It's an exciting way to consider describing people that are optimistic about technology, but to call them wait, what did he say? Techno-optimists? Yeah, techno-optimists. Is kind of like a fun way to discuss it, to be honest. And I'm wondering if that's more like common in the political arena versus like the public arena.
And artificial intelligence and all the other incredible technologies that you guys are working. But I think that that tension is a little overstated. And so I'm going to come back to what's sort of dividing some of the tech optimists and the populists on our side. I think the populists, when they look at the future and when they compare it to what's happened in the past, I think a lot of them see alienation of workers from their jobs, from their communities, from their sense of solidarity. You see the alienation of people from their sense of purpose. And importantly, they see a leadership class that believes welfare can replace a job and an application on a phone can replace a sense of purpose. Now, I remember a Silicon Valley dinner in particular.
I mean, that's an interesting appeal to like emotion in a way, to have him say that about the phone, because that's not necessarily what's happening. Like that's a weird like equivalency that he's throwing in there.
Back when I was in my tech days, where my wife and I were sitting around talking to some of the leaders of the important technology firms of the United States, and this was probably in 2016 or 2017. And I was talking about my real worry that we were heading in a direction where America could no longer support middle-class families working on middle-class wages. And importantly, that even if you had enough economic dynamism to provide the wealth to ensure those people could, afford to buy a house and afford their food and so forth, that even if you replaced the financial element of their jobs, you would destroy something that was dignified and purposeful about work itself. And I remember one of the tech CEOs who was there, that CEO, you would know his name if I mentioned it. He was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. He said, well, I'm actually not worried about the loss of purpose when people lose their jobs. And I said, okay, well, what do you think is going to replace that sense of purpose? And he said, digital, fully immersive gaming. And then my wife texted me underneath the table and said, we have to get the hell out of here. These people are effing crazy. Now, I don't think that, of course, that CEO's views are representative of most people.
I mean, he might be right that that's how like futuristic, like weird little like thoughts, how somebody might discover a fleeting entertainment based purpose, but it doesn't mean that it's lasting, right?
People in this room, but when I think about a lot of the workers, based on what they've seen in the past, are very worried about the future because, frankly, their leadership has failed to serve them. And then I think about this from the perspective of a lot of the tech optimists. I think a lot of the tech optimists, they see overregulation, they see stifling innovation. I mean, you guys are builders. They are builders. And while they may sympathize with those who lost a job, they're much more frustrated that the government won't allow them to build the jobs of the future. And they know that as hard as it is to build a business in digital media, it's still harder to build one in robotics or life sciences or energy in what we call the world of atoms. They see a government that makes their lives harder, and they must trust anyone who looks to that government for aid. And what I propose is that each group, our workers, the populists on the one hand, the tech optimists on the other, have been failed by this government. Not just the government of the last administration, but the government in some ways of the last 40 years. Because there were two conceits that our leadership class had when it came to globalization. The first is assuming that we can separate the making of things from the design of things. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things. You would open an iPhone box and it would say designed in Cupertino, California. Now the implication, of course, is that it would be manufactured in Shenzhen or somewhere else. And yeah, some people might lose their jobs in manufacturing, but they could learn to design, or to use a very popular phrase, learn to code. But I think we got it wrong. It turns out that the geographies that do the manufacturing get awfully good at the designing of things. There are network effects, as you all well understand. The firms that design products work with firms that manufacture. They share intellectual property, they share best practices, and they even sometimes share critical employees. Now, we assume that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain.
That's like an insanely good point that I feel like could have been predicted. as far as tech and innovation goes, and like your products essentially and your technology essentially being like stolen and mastered away from you, or that mastery like is essentially the mastery that they have for it is essentially stealing that technology away from you because they're improving upon it because they're using it at the base level and they're able to improve it all the way up the chain as they emulate it. Yeah, so that's very interesting, and I feel like they could have predicted that, but it must have been just like blind greed that made them not, to be honest, because they were trying to get something manufactured cheaper. How terrible. What a terrible like precedent to go into. It's interesting like how much this is going to be like reversed. It's a little insane because like for example, like I mean like honestly think about this in the in the light of like a small business owner. How hard it must be to have to like fly to another country to start your business and gamble everything on like all these flights, and travel's getting more and more expensive too, right? Especially nowadays, it's getting even more and more hard difficult to start like some sort of like business if it's not like a restaurant, right? Um, something that must be like domestic, right? Um, if you're trying to sell directly to that country through a means of like a restaurant, obviously it's gonna be like a different business structure and model than like if you're trying to produce a product that you're going to sell to Americans. Having to go to other countries, which was the norm, or then like start your company in America and then move to another country, that's a huge net loss in your business to have to like make that conversion, and it's a huge risk. And then you run the risk of your items being like knocked off, stolen, and also manufacturing companies do very shady things as well, where they not manufacturing companies, but the warehouses, like the factories can, and I've learned this from like Shark Tank, right? All these businesses that show up and they're like, we had problems with like the warehouses and the manufacturing or something like that, and like all of their product was made slightly incorrectly, and it can't be sold at all now, and they have these huge like bankruptcy debts, and they don't know what to do, and they want the Shark Tank dudes to like bail them out because our product is amazing, just trust me, pay off our debt and we can have a second chance at this, and you can have half of my company and all this kind of stuff. Like I've seen this. And that's a reality, right? Like, and I remember like in Kevin O'Leary and some other people talking to them about it and being like, look man, like, and then when they heard like that the warehouses were essentially like ruining their product and still forcing them to like eat the cost as a company instead of the warehouse eating the cost, which is probably something that they should have done, but they're not going to do it. It was just fascinating watching all of their faces like sink because they knew these people were being absolutely run through the gutter and destroyed. And really, I feel like if I'm going to be really critical about it, their faces might have been sinking also because they realized, well, now I can't invest in this company because it's too, it's got too much of like a negative uh, debt to income to growth ratio or whatever, and it becomes too much of a risk. Okay, this is a little more interesting than I thought it was going to be, so let's keep listening. The way he's discussing some things is kind of I'm a little curious about it. So yeah.
They also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends. Now, that was the first conceit of globalization. I think the second is that cheap labor is fundamentally a crutch, and it's a crutch that inhibits innovation. I might even say that it's a drug that too many American firms got addicted to. Now, if you can make a product more cheaply, it's far too easy to do that rather than to innovate. And whether we were offshoring factories to cheap labor economies or importing cheap labor through our immigration system, cheap labor became the drug of Western economies. And I'd say that if you look in nearly every country from Canada to the UK that imported large amounts of cheap labor, you've seen productivity stagnate. I don't think that's not a total happenstance. I think that the connection is very direct. Now, one of the debates you hear on the minimum wage, for instance, is that increases in the minimum wage force firms to automate. So a higher wage at McDonald's means more kiosks. And whatever your views on the wisdom of the minimum wage, I'm not going to comment on that here. Companies innovating in the absence of cheap labor is a good thing. I think most of you are not worried about getting cheaper and cheaper labor. You're worried about innovating, about building new things, about the old formulation of technology is doing more with less. You guys are all trying to do more with less every single day. And so I'd ask my friends, both on the tech optimist side and on the populist side, not to see the failure of the logic of globalization as a failure of innovation. Indeed, I'd say that globalization's hunger for cheap labor is a problem precisely because it's been bad for innovation. Both our working people, our populists, and our innovators gathered here today have the same enemy. And the solution, I believe, is American innovation. Because in the long run, it's technology that increases the value of labor. Innovations like the American system and the interchangeable parts revolution it sparked, or Ford's moving assembly line that skyrocketed the productivity of our workers. That's how American industry became the envy of the world. And that's what I really want to talk about today, why innovation is key to winning the worldwide manufacturing competition, to giving our workers a fair deal, and to reclaiming our heritage via America's great industrial comeback. And I believe that's what we're on the cusp of, a great American industrial comeback. Because innovation is what increases wages. It's what protects our homelands, and I know we have a lot of defense technology companies here. It's what saves troops' lives on the battlefield. And I know everyone here today largely agrees. It's why we have some of the greatest inventors and thinkers in energy, precision machining, countless critical high-value industries just in this room. And I think the other thing that unites all of you is that you're builders. And I use that word deliberately. I was very moved by Mark's manifesto from a few years ago about America. We are a nation of builders. We make things, we create things. Each of you came to this
Mark's manifesto? I know he's not talking about Karl Marx's communistic manifesto from it wasn't a few years ago, but it's just interesting that he's referring to somebody named Mark, and he's talking about the Marx manifesto, Marxism. Anyway, it's just interesting. How unfortunate. What is this manifesto he's talking about?
Summit, not because you developed some flash-in-the-pan application, but because you're building something very real. You're raising new factories, you're turning profits back into R&D, and you're creating new, good-paying jobs for your fellow Americans. And this is why I'm such huge fans of yours, of Ben's and Mark's, and of the entire endeavor. And that we recognize now in our administration is the time to align our work interests with those of all of you. It's time to align the interests of our technology firms with the interests of the United States of America writ large. Now, all of you, in your own ways, have answered that call. After all, there's nothing forcing anyone to be in the room today. Each one of you could have set up headquarters in Southeast Asia or China, I'm sure, and you would have done quite well for yourselves financially. But you're here, I hope, because you love your country. You love its people and the opportunities that it's given you, and you recognize that building things, our capacity to create new innovation in the economy, cannot be a race to the bottom. Now, America's not going to win the future by ditching child labor laws or paying our workers less than Chinese or Vietnamese laborers. We don't want that, and it's not on the table. We can only win by doing what we always did, protecting our workers and supporting our innovators, and doing both of those things at the same time. And so, I want to talk a little specifics here. The Trump administration's great plan for staging the great American manufacturing comeback is simple. You're making interesting new things here in America? Great. Then we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to slash regulations, we're going to reduce the cost of energy so that you can build, build, build. Our goal is to incentivize investment in our own borders, in our own businesses, our own workers, and our own innovation. We don't want people seeking cheap labor. We want them investing and building right here in the United States of America. And so if you'll allow it, I'd like to talk about a few ways that the Trump administration is already pursuing a pro-innovation economy that allows our workers to thrive, and our companies to outcompete their foreign peers. In short, an economy that is vibrantly America first, that serves Americans from all walks of life and of every kind. Now, first, President Trump is starting with, and is dead serious, about rearranging our trade and tariff regime internationally. We believe that tariffs are a necessary tool to protect our jobs and our industries from other countries, as well as the labor value of our workers in a globalized market. In fact, combined with the right technology, they allow us to bring jobs back to the United States of America and create the jobs of the future. Just look in the past few months at the auto industry as an important example. When you erect a tariff wall around a critical industry like auto manufacturing, and you combine that with advanced robotics and lower energy costs and other tools that increase the productivity of U.S. labor, you give American workers a multiplying effect. Now that, in turn, allows firms to make things here at a price-competitive basis. Our president gets that, which is why last month we posted 9,000 new auto jobs after many, many years of stagnation or even decline in the auto sector. It's why, just weeks in, we already have new planner production announcements from Honda, from Hyundai, and Stellantis worth billions of dollars and thousands of additional jobs on top of the ones that were already created. Now, this takes work. It took, in the president's first term, the president ripping up NAFTA and creating a new U.S. deal for American manufacturers in North America. But there's important work, and we're going to do it. Now, second, all of this is why the president is approaching the issue of illegal immigration as aggressively as he has, because he knows that cheap labor cannot be used as a substitute for the productivity gains that come with economic innovation. And so we've cracked down on illegal immigration at the border, where the results speak for themselves. Last month, migrant crossings were down 94% to their lowest number all time, and that happened just in 2 months of serious border enforcement. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, last month, for the first time in over a year, the majority of job gains went to American citizens born on U.S. soil, and that's important. For the first time in over a year, the majority of job creation actually went to American citizens. The third, this administration is focused on reducing our input costs for our manufacturers and for everybody else. Achieving energy abundance, and I know Doug Burgum was here earlier, will be here later, is top of mind, because when we look at some of the most exciting applications of new technologies, we realize it's going to take a lot of power to keep them running. And we're thrilled to have our friends from the United Arab Emirates, a number of the business leaders and government leaders in town this week for meetings with our government. And one of the things they consistently hammer upon is something that unfortunately too few of our European allies tend to get, is that if you want to lead in artificial intelligence, you have got to be leading in energy production. So we are going to set the pace there, and we are going to lead from the front. Now, we are already seeing, the good news is, signs of progress, even just a couple of months in. Gas and diesel prices are dropping, the cost of a barrel of U.S. crude is way down, and last Wednesday, the administration took major steps to make energy even cheaper and liberate our companies from stifling environmental regulations. Now, that is great, but of course, there's a lot more work we have to do over the next 4 years. Getting the tax bill right is especially critical for all of you and for all of your workers. We know how important it is to restore 100% bonus depreciation for capital investments, as well as full expensing for R&D. Again, we want people to invest in America, and we're going to make sure the tax code reflects that. In order to build on the success of the original tax law, meaning the tax law from the president's first administration, our administration is working to broaden some provisions that are critical to the industrial base, like expanding full expensing to cover factory construction. For business owners, including manufacturers, making the 2017 tax cuts permanent will provide further confidence and predictability to invest in new technology and equipment, hire more American workers, and grow all of your businesses. We have a lot more to do, but the country's already starting to see the payoff of this administration's bold economic agenda. For producers and consumers alike, inflation is finally starting to come down. Core CPI last week dropped to its lowest number since April of 2021. And when it comes to the labor market, last month's jobs report showed a massive reversal. 10,000 new manufacturing jobs created, where the previous year we had lost over 100,000 manufacturing jobs. As you may have heard the president say, in less than 2 months since he took office, he's already secured more than $1.7 trillion in new investments across the United States. That's hundreds of thousands of new jobs in manufacturing, AI, other hard tech sectors, and more. So we think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot that we're excited about, and we certainly hope that you guys are excited too. But the fundamental premise, the fundamental goal of President Trump's economic policy is, I think, to undo 40 years of failed economic policy in this country. For far too long, we got addicted to cheap labor, both overseas and by importing it into our own country, and we got lazy. We overregulated our industries instead of supporting them. We overtaxed our innovators instead of making it easier for them to build their great companies. And we made it way too hard to build things and invest things in the United States of America. That stopped 2 months ago, and it will continue to stop, and will continue to fight for American workers and the American businesses that hire them and that support them. So I want to thank you all for two things. Number one, I want to thank you all for doing what you do. Again, you could have chosen the easy path. Every single person in this room, as the president would say, you're all very high IQ. You're some of the most talented people in the United States of America. You chose to build a business right here in the United States of America, and for that I'm grateful. But the second thing I want to say is that I think you're not just building your own business, I think that you are part of a great American industrial renaissance. Whether it's the war of the future, the jobs of the future, the economic prosperity of the future, we believe that we must build it right here in the United States of America. So thank you all for building in America, and thank you all for building the kind of society that I want to raise my children in. God bless you all. Thanks for having me.
It's interesting to see a government try to, like, there's got to be another reason for it, right? To see a government try to move all industry back into their country, into stockpile industry into that country, it makes me think that, like, there actually is a lot of pretty serious, like, conversation about war worldwide, more so than maybe there ever has been, because otherwise why would they try to stockpile business and manufacturing within that own country? Because if there is this mass-wide war, right, for World War III type thing, you're going to want most of that manufacturing to be on your own soil. You just are. So that's the case. Okay, well, that is a 4-hour stream. I was already very tired tonight. But I stuck through it with you guys to get through the nightly news. There's 3 big things to watch. We got through all 3 of them, and we had some good conversations. So if you're interested in any of this, please give a like and subscribe, and maybe take a look at some of the other videos. We've got nightly news. We've got some pretty casual gaming sessions, where we mix in some other either discussion or some other things as well. We've had some pretty insightful and deep conversations within the stream when people come in and they chat and they're engaging, which is always exciting, and I really appreciate that as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. May God bless you, and Jesus loves you, and